Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Alien vs. Predator Galaxy podcast. This is Aaron Percival, aka Corporal Hicks, and joining me is regular partner in crime.
Adam Zeller, aka RidgeTop.
And also joining us is a voice and a face you probably haven't heard for. When did we say this was? Episode 9 was your last regular one, which was 2013. But you did make a reappearance about 5 years ago during the 40th anniversary shorts. And if you listen to the weekly streams, his voice will sometimes be on there, joining us and giving Adam shit as we are wont to do on the weekly streams. Welcome back, Mr. Mike.
Thank you for having me. I'm also Mikey back in the day too, if that's who people are like, who's this Mike guy? Add a Y to the name, that's me. But now I'm Mike's Monsters. So
Indeed.
Because I do all my monster stuff. It's not just Alien and Predator, but happy to be here. It's been a very long time. Been too long to be honest. But it's good to be back. It's good to be here.
You're too busy hobnobbing with all these directors now. And,
I know.
These actors and what have you.
These xenomorph actors, these alien movie directors, Godzilla ones too. If you want to step outside of the Alien franchise, it's been a cool year and a half or two here. Can't deny that.
Has it really only been 2 years that you've been doing all Mike's monster stuff?
I've had it since 2016 actually, but it was once I moved to LA and life started meeting people like through this website and stuff like that, and things started happening. But then the Mike's Monsters YouTube channel has kind of blown up a lot in the last strictly year, to be honest. I tripled my followers or quadrupled them since like this time last year, so it's been a lot of growth. It's been really cool. I can't deny that. It's just a lot of cool stuff happening.
Oh, cool. Well, for those that don't know, Mikey and I started the podcast back in 2011.
Yep.
Although just do the 2000.
Mikey, you were also, you also used to be on staff on the forums, didn't you? You were a moderator back in the day, and we did. I know we said 9 episodes, but I don't think you were on all of them. I think I did a couple of them on Mobility Todd, like the Brit ones. And the amount of times we recorded that first fucking episode, I can still remember to this day having a power cut in the middle of one attempt, another attempt with shit audio, and we eventually got there.
Yeah. Wow. I think I was just using my computer built-in microphone at times too, so it probably sounded like complete shit.
Yeah.
I forgot about the power cutting out on that one too. I think, was that on my end? It probably
no,
was.
Me. That was me. Yeah. I was fucking livid. Well, I mean, I was really hesitant to start doing a podcast in the first place.
Yeah. I was surprised when you asked me to do it, and I was like, why me? But I mean, I was happy to do it, but it was very much I never even considered doing it myself either. And now all these years later, I can't do math right now, but like, damn, it's been going for a while.
Yep. I can't remember why you either. But we must have played. We must have played plenty of Halo in 2010 back then.
Yeah, we were gaming a lot.
Each other socially outside of just
well, we had this thing, and I don't know if it was intentional or not, but for every Christmas morning that I would wake up really early before my family, I would pop onto AvP 2 on the PC, and somehow you were on there as well. And for like 3 or 4 years, we played AvP 2 every Christmas morning.
Okay. I remember it being my tradition to play it on Christmas Eve night. Don't remember you being there. I'm sorry, but that makes a lot more fucking sense.
Yeah. No, it was one of those, like, I think we might have realized it while we were gaming because we had been on the site and we recognized our usernames, and it was one of those like, hey, wait a second. And then I didn't have access to that game anymore, so I faded out of existence on that one. But that I remember, but I think it was also just us gaming on Halo or probably Colonial Marines a little bit too, because we were doing those game nights.
It'd have been 2010.
Or AvP 2010. Yeah. That's right. And yeah, that's I think when I met this guy over here. Yeah, I was playing AvP 2010 with all of you guys, and
yeah, it must have been during those times. Yeah,
we certainly played together as a group because for the longest time, it sounds ridiculous now, and this is some of my ignorance. I couldn't tell you two apart on audio.
That's how we feel about British people. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. There's something in the fucking water.
That is now one of the most iconic lines of the Alien franchise, in my opinion.
Yeah. Oh, I say it all the time around the house.
But yeah, I think I had seen you, maybe both of you occasionally on AvP too, because that was also my introduction just really to the site and just the hype around the first AvP film. But we didn't start like chatting on the regular, I think, until AvP 2010, the Rebellion game. I think that was the catalyst because we were all on Xbox 360. We were all on voice comms. And that's really around the time, like around AvPR, and a bit after that, when I was getting more involved with the site and just getting to know the community a bit more. And there, it is a bit odd being part of the old guard, I guess, because we've had a number of prominent community members that have come and gone as well, and staff as well. I mean, I'm pretty much on staff because if anyone remembers Icarop, or whose name was Christian, he recommended me to you guys, and you guys gave me a shot. I started as like just a moderator for a single part of the forum. I think it was either 2010 or Colonial Marines is one of the games. And then you had Eric and I become global mods, I think, Aaron, in early 2013. And that was also my first appearance on the podcast, was the one right after Mikey stopped, was episode 10, I think. It was Colonial Marines. It was reviewing Colonial Marines.
You say right after, but back then we weren't.
There was some gap.
It wasn't exactly consistent with what we were doing. There was a big gap for our interview with Trevor, Mikey, because I think that was probably like the first. I suppose before we keep going, welcome to episode 200, everybody out there listening. I'm curious to see how we go with this one, because I was going to do what I did for episode 100, and I was going to try and find like somebody involved with one of the cool things that we were into as kids. For episode 100, we interviewed Nathan Shiva, who was one of the developers of AvP2. And AvP2 is so important to us because, that's what the website was started about. That's where we socially jumped into some of I say socially in quotation marks, because of the chats that you could do through the old games and stuff like that. I didn't want to do a pat yourself on the back circle jerk kind of episode, but the patrons wanted it, the supporters wanted it, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to spend this episode reminiscing, maybe talk about people you don't necessarily know, maybe filling you in on some of the history of the website, not just the podcast, the website, our own fandom, our own histories, our own opportunities that we've got to do through our involvement with the website. Darkness was invited on, but he didn't think he'd have much to say after what he'd already discussed on the AvP episode, and probably the AvP Extinction episode as well. And Eric will join us at some point. His computer is just updating at the minute, but he will join us at some point. But yes, episode 200, everybody. Wow. Where was I before I redirected us there?
You were talking about
the gap. Yes. Yes. So that was our first big sort of interview. We were speaking to an actor from the films ourselves on our shitty fucking microphones. Do not go back and listen to the old episodes. Don't. The audio quality is terrible. Our confidence is probably fucking terrible.
I was so nervous. I was incredibly nervous, even though he was a background character, essentially, not like Michael Biehn or anything. But I was just like shaking on the other end of the camera, like, oh my God, I'm talking to someone from my favorite movie. What?
Yeah.
Never would have thought.
it was fucking nerve-wracking. And yeah, there was a big gap because at that time I broke up with my missus at the time. I had to move out, and you know, I didn't release it for ages because I didn't edit it for ages because I've always been an anal motherfucker who liked to get rid of the ums and ahs and that kind of stuff. That hopefully, if you're listening to the audio version, you won't hear much of. If you're watching the video stuff, I apologize. I'm not doing that on the video stuff, but on the audio, I do like to try and polish it as much as I can. But yeah, man, that was fucking incredible, you know.
Yeah.
And then we've gone on to talk to directors and screenwriters and some of the more prominent actors as well. It's been fucking cool.
Who would have thought back then, when we were just little kids, essentially, that we would be. You guys literally talked to the director of Alien Romulus and Prey recently, like in the last few years, and that's just wild. The site's really taken a run and gone far, and it's like something to be incredibly proud of. I'm always happy to say that I've been involved with this site in the past. It's something I always hold highly in my discussions with people, even if I'm not as active anymore. It's just still part of my life, and I probably wouldn't have the experiences I've had if I hadn't have been part of it.
And you still help us out. I mean, you helped us film a
Yeah.
recent visit to game developer Servios, and they just released their VR game Alien Rogue Incursion. But honestly, yeah, just the site's been, it's hard to overstate how important it's been for me. I know I came on a bit later than you guys, but
Still 10 years of your life, mate.
yeah,
That's a
but
long time.
even before that, you know, growing up in a small Utah town and being like a nerdy kid, you know, going online and seeing that other people were into the kind of things I was into, and being able to just chat with them, play video games with them, and you know, I've developed lifelong friendships with you guys. My partner of almost 12 years now, I met on the site. I don't really say that very much, but yeah, it's really just been such an awesome time, like being a part of the community, and then for really my second half of involvement at the site of being part of the team and joining the podcast. And you know, I remember those early episodes too, Aaron. That first episode I did with Aliens, Colonial Marines, I was so nervous. Like, again, don't go back and listen to those, because you can hear it in my voice how nervous I am, because this community was important to me, and for me to like be on the podcast and be talking with you guys publicly about this stuff, and just to, you know, shit on this game we were all disappointed with.
I mean, it's also a thing to remember that we have seen a lot of developments of the internet as well, you know, in the way that we engage as fandoms, as folk. You know, I completely share the sentiment, Adam, you know, of not knowing many people who was into what I was into. You know, I had the fortune of having some friends that were nerds, and my involvement in websites came from somebody at school, a kid a couple of years older than me, and I'll tell that story in a couple of minutes as well. But you know, for us to be able to go from the effort that it took to find fellows, I think, is more my point here. So, you know, when I started, it was the mail groups. You know, I was on mail groups that I accessed via Outlook. You know, I know I've mentioned this one before, surely, alt.cult.movie.alien, if I remember rightly. And you can still access that shit through Google Archives. You know, that group still exists on Google Archives, and you can see those old email discussions that people had. But you had to go find them, you know. Forums, you know, message boards, big thing in the 2000s. To pretty much sort of the advent of Facebook, you know, forums were the way that we really discussed things. There were occasional chat rooms and stuff like that, which I guess is a function Discords really took over.
And Reddit, I would say, as far as forums go, kind of.
Well, I was thinking more Discord taking over chat rooms.
Oh.
But yeah, Reddit is very much like the mega fucking forum. But it was harder because we had to go find websites that ran these forums. And there's a lot more effort involved. And then, now we've got Facebook, and I think Facebook is the internet, really. These mega places like Facebook and Instagram, with the easy to create and join groups, that's where the discussion, I suppose, really takes place these days. And we've lived through all that. We're not the oldest out there. There are certainly other members of the community that make me feel like a fucking child sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's not how I generally feel on a day-to-day basis, but there are people out there that do that to me. But there's people out there who won't have been on a forum, won't know what we are and stuff like that, which is wild to me.
The kids have it easy these days. They definitely do. You just log in and you can see Alien and Predator stuff if you want. It's like right there. Every social media you have it. And yeah, it was special being able to find the right community back in the day. Like I also echo Adam. I was in a small town in the woods, and just having played AvP 2 and stuff, and then to find a website that had people that had similar interests, and it just one thing after another, it clicked, and it was just really cool to have that. But now it's like you can't like step onto the internet without seeing something, without it's all there. So it's just a wild. I would have never thought
algorithms.
like back. Yeah, the algorithm really forcing it down your throat. If you see one Alien post, that's all you're going to see for the rest of the day. Like I just don't think when I was younger I would have thought that we would have had access to it like we do now. But of course we do. It makes total sense. But back then it felt much more. Not that it isn't special now, but it was very special back then. Much more of a community, it felt like.
And it was harder to get the news. So, back then, it mattered where you were visiting for your news. We used to compete with each other as to who, when there was more websites, we used to compete with each other as to who posted this news first, who found this, new article or set visit or stuff like that.
You still got that drive.
There is a little bit of that, yeah.
Not so much nowadays, because like the moment somebody sees something and it's in a group, 2 minutes later it's every fucking where else. Yeah. So it doesn't matter so much where you're going for your news nowadays. At least not the news. It's the extra content that we produce that's different and makes each place stand out and stuff like that. So sometimes it's a challenge to keep up with the shifting attitudes and shifting ways that we have our discussions, get our news, get our content and stuff like that, which is difficult in its own right.
I feel like there's more misinformation nowadays than there ever used to be. Like, yes, we used to have those fake, like those AvP production stills, but I think they were just photoshops from the card game back in the day. That like it was like the Predator holding the facehugger tube or whatever.
Yes,
like that went around like wildfire back in the day. But now, if something like that
didn't know it was from a card game, which is why that kind of stuff happens. Because again, it's harder to find out about all these things.
Yeah. And but now some YouTuber could go just say something, and then it becomes fact, and then you don't know it's fake until the movie actually comes out.
But that's where it's even harder now as well, because there's so many people. It's so easy for everybody to create. It's so easy for people to create a YouTube channel. It's so easy for people to create a Facebook page or a Facebook group, and the challenge is in finding out who's actually knowledgeable, who's trustworthy. And in and of itself, that can be fucking tiresome. There are certain communities out there who have succeeded and modeled themselves off of misinterpreting their authenticity, their official nature and stuff like that, where people don't realize, or might not necessarily look into how much they can trust a certain outlet, which makes things really difficult, and it can be tiresome. I had a little crusade at one point back at the end of, the 2010s about trying to be, with the guys that are going to give you the genuine sort of news, and, we're not going to post any old bullshit and all that kind of stuff. But that was fucking tiring in and of itself, especially when the other places, I've always felt like David fighting Goliath in a lot of ways, because I am a little bit of that grumpy old man, in that I don't want to always embrace the new technology, which is fucking hypocritical of me to say, working in the technology field. But like, I was dead resistant to Facebook for a long time. I didn't really utilize it properly.
Yeah, I mean, initially we were just a website. You know, we were not on social media. We didn't have a Discord server or Steam group. We didn't have a YouTube channel. I remember I kind of pushed you, to your chagrin, for a YouTube channel, Aaron. But yeah, as far as reliability goes, like, it's, you know, the feedback we get from our community, but not only our community. Like, I remember seeing a Kotaku article recently that I can't remember which piece of reporting we did, but they were like, AvP Galaxy, a reliable source for Alien and Predator news. I was like, oh wow, that's like, for a site like Kotaku to say that about us, like, our reputation has gone there. Like, that's just so cool. And thinking back to those early forum days, Aaron, I don't think there's any other sites from that time that are left. I mean, there were a bunch of Planet AvP, Alien Experience.
I never liked Planet AvP.
No, they were another one of my regulars.
Was that the Game Freak one?
Yes.
Or,
no.
What is
GameSpy?
GameSpy.
That's what it was.
Yeah,
that's right.
It was all green.
They had a bunch of. They had a something planet for everything. You know, there's Half-Life Planet, Halo Planet.
They had their own multiplayer servers.
Yeah.
No, I never liked Planet AvP. Because they. It sounds silly to say, but I never thought they took it seriously. You know, they would post any old shit. So back when I was a child, you know, to prove my point, I was responsible for one of the rumors that they posted. That what was it? That Peter Weller was going to be an AvP as like Frank Utani or something stupid like that, and they just posted it.
That would have been really good. That would have been good casting, though. That's some good fan casting right there.
But no, that was me when I was like 13 or 14. So, you know, forgive me.
He was a little troll back then.
I mean, the websites trolled every once in a while too on those April Fool's posts.
We did
up going.
Yeah, we had the one viral. The biggest one we ever did was in the lead up to Prometheus. And it was who did that artwork, Aaron?
Blake
Celian. Yeah, Blake. Celian, I think, was his forum name. Blake Lowry.
Lowry. Yeah.
So
he's a game developer now, I believe.
Yes, he's an indie developer.
So he did a piece of artwork which was a space jockey with a Predator shoulder cannon, and it looked good, actually, and we reported really on it for April Fools, and the movie sites were fooled. Like, they picked it up. Mm-hmm. So we had to come out the next day and say it was April Fool's. But
that went like a wildfire. That was on every single movie website that I visited back in those days, and it wasn't just AvP.
Well, I mean, it was more than just an April Fool's. You know, I actually laid the groundwork for that.
Yeah,
about us having received some intel a day or two before, you know, trying to build into this big reveal, and he even made it on the fucking Blu-ray. Do you remember?
Yeah, that's right.
I did. Yeah.
Charles
I forgot about that. Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, a few more bits of the website ended up on the Prometheus Blu-ray as well. Yeah. It was more than just the April Fool's thing. You know, we were featured in Furious Gods. I think we were featured in one of the. Did he call them enhancement pods on that one as well? There was an enhancement pod on that fake script. Oh, what was it called? Alien Harvest. And you know, a bunch of like the comments on the website were included on that. Do you remember Alien Harvest?
That sounds familiar.
Okay. No, that's one for folk to go and have a look at. I'll not say any more on that one, but yeah, it was a fan script that was trying to purport itself to be an official Prometheus draft back then.
Oh, okay, I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
But yeah, we started in 2002 October, so we've passed 20 years now. We're coming up on 25. And, you know, we do have to give some recognition to Darkness. I mean, yeah, he's kind of a private person. You might have heard his voice on our podcast a few times. he's the one who's really responsible for starting the site and keeping it going. Like, he handles all the real logistical
Technical.
website maintenance, the stuff that's probably over our heads mostly. Um, and honestly, he's helped me to understand WordPress a little bit more. I'm still very much a novice on that. But yeah, he's just been how he started the site and ran it, and it's just been awesome. So I'm really appreciative to him for keeping it going and for bringing me on board. And I know, Aaron, you started off as a competitor to him, right, with your own site, and you guys joined forces.
Yeah. So back in the day, you know, I was 13, 14. I can't remember how old I was. It was somewhere around that age range. I decided to teach myself HTML and make an Alien and Predator website. And, you know, that was thanks to that previously mentioned kid that was a few years older than me at school. You know, I don't know what it's like in the States, but in my school, we had things called senior students. So they were like kids that were towards the end of their education, and they were seen as, you know, more responsible and knowledgeable and things like that. And you'd have certain senior students in each of the, I was going to say divisions then, topics, lessons. And there was a lad in IT, one of the senior students there. And, you know, like I said, I was a nerd. My friends were nerds. We always used to go to the IT classroom on dinner breaks or in the breaks or after school, because that was how, you know, we accessed the internet back then. We didn't have smartphones, or every house had it, didn't have internet in. But yeah, there was a kid in there who ran his own AvP website. He was an AvP2 fan. He had his own AvP2 website, and he was, I think his name's Jason. I can't really remember, but if you're out there, mate, you know, he was the one that inspired me to want to do my own. So I taught myself HTML and then made AvP World, because back then we used to do everything based around galactic entities. AvP Galaxy, Planet AvP, there was AvP Universe.
Do you have any pictures of it saved?
I still have, I believe, the entirety of the last version I had of the website. And we'll see if I can find it, and we'll show it later.
That'd be a fun one.
But it was a shitty website. But I had a little bit of pride in it because I coded that entire fucking thing myself. There was a brief phase around 2024, fuck off. There's a brief phase around 2004, 2003, 2005, where everybody created websites on something called free webs, which was, I guess, a precursor to content management systems. It was a precursor to things like Wix and Squarespace and stuff like that. And this little arrogant fucking twat that I was back then was like, I'm coding this shit. You know, I'm putting the real effort into it. So I was very stubborn about that, which kind of really held me back then. Darkness was there using, what was it called? Cute News, which I don't think he used it straight away. I think Cute News was an eventual implementation, but it was like, it made it easier to post news. So the way I did it, I had to go in, I had to code everything, I had to re-upload the website, and Darkness could just access this, this web portal, type his news article up, hit send, and off it went. You know, that was newer back then. It was a bit more complicated back then. I ended up jury rigging my own version of that using blog software. At some point, because I didn't understand what he was doing with all the PHP stuff, just to get a little bit technical there. But yeah, I got in my own way back then. But, you know, there was a bunch of us. There was lots of these free websites. There was Planet AvP. There was AvP News. And AvP News was the one I grew up on. You know, that was the one I modeled a lot of the things I did off of, was the way they behaved, was the way they ran their forums and reported their news and stuff like that. And they were the cool dudes. They were the guys that ended up getting to be producers on the AvP games on Predator Concrete Jungle and stuff like that. You know, these were nerds, these were web nerds like us who then got to go and work on the games and consult and be producers of some variety. I think they were consulting producers on the games. I can't really remember. It was a long time ago. But, you know, they were the guys I modeled myself after. But there was this little circle of us. Welcome, Rob, in the chat. He says, I was on AvP News daily back in the day. Yeah, same. What else was there? Was AvP 2.net. They eventually
Alien Experience as well.
Alien Experience, yes. Because they stuck around a lot longer than everybody else did. They were kind of like our competition in the AvP Requiem days. But yeah, everybody.
Alien Legacy as well, weren't they one?
Well, they were a cosplay community. So
no, there was a different one. I'm trying to remember.
Was
Alien Legacy the official one?
No,
there was
a release called that.
Yeah, there was a website for the Alien Legacy box set, because that had like a lot of the little tidbits that might
maybe that was it. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
Well, I had things like Vasquez and Drake being juvenile, delinquents and recruited from prison, and I don't think that was too common knowledge really back around those days. But that website had stuff like that on it. But yeah, they ended up being this little trio of us, which was AvP Galaxy, AvP World, and the Ultimate Predator.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one.
And we used to sort of compete with each other. It was like a friendly competition, but it was also shitbag kids competitions where, you know, we were immature little wankers with each other. But we used to talk to each other all the time. What was his name? Ian Yarnell, I think his name was, who was the guy who ran the Ultimate Predator. And we all sort of gave up at certain points over those late teens. I gave up on AvP World not long after AvP came out, but that was more frustration over my technical capabilities and how hard it was for me to do things. So I ended up actually joining the guys who were doing a reincarnation of AvP News. You know, one of the old guys had come back to redo it on their old network, Game Gossip. And I got involved with them because of my admiration for AvP News back in the day. Welcome, Eric. Eric has joined us.
It is me.
The king has returned.
He's got his party hat on.
Yeah.
Just hiding the hair.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I went to work for this AvP News. Everything went tits up. Everybody left. I was left on my own and couldn't do anything technical. And that's when I gave up. Darkness had already given up, I think, a year or so before that. I don't know what happened to Ian. I can't remember why he stopped doing his website. But then at some point, you know, Darkness reached out to me to ask if he could have my old interviews and my old reviews that I'd done for AvP World. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it, mate. Have them. I'll come join you. And then Ian came to join us as well, did the same thing. And we were the core guys for the first couple of years of AvP Galaxy's new appearance online.
So that was the relaunch site, right? After it shut down around the film.
What was Ian's username?
The Ultimate Predator. It was the name of his website.
Oh, okay.
And
that makes sense.
His handle, yeah.
Well, the site still had a few moderators, didn't it, before that first shutdown?
Just me. I used to moderate his comics and literature board or his merchandise board, something like that. Because that was a whole other thing, and I take credit for starting that. At least in our little bubble of the internet. But there eventually became a time where we all had externally hosted message boards. So, you know, the forum lives on AvP Galaxy's web host now. But back then, you know, there were services, they were called Conforums and Pro Boards were the main ones. And everybody on the fucking internet had started to use them. And I think I was the first one in our, you know, the AvP sort of circle to create one. And then Darkness also created one for AvP Galaxy. And yeah, I was a host, not a host. I was a moderator on one of the subboards there.
So you were a moderator while you were still doing AvP News?
Yes.
Or AvP World?
AvP World. I actually worked on a few sites back in the day. I was a news poster for Absolute AvP. I think AvP Freak was another one I was a news poster on.
That was definitely a site. I remember that one.
Because they had a pretty good boards, a locally hosted boards on there as well. Sorry if I'm getting a little bit too technical sometimes with the nerdy details, but
well, I remember you reached out to me one day out of the blue when I was doing a lot of the graphic stuff for the site members. Like people were asking for signatures, for the Halo thing, and I found those files recently, and I was like, ugh, I was so not good at what I was doing, but I could see what I was trying to do. But you didn't take that anywhere, did you? You didn't make that a living site at all, did you?
No, I still have those files somewhere. Hang on.
Yeah.
I have the banner. I have the banner right here for what you did for me.
My old messy Photoshop jobs,
hang
which
on.
were still okay back in the day.
I will
but
add
that
it
was
to this for the video people. I'll add it for the video people.
I think that's why maybe I had so much presence on the website, is because I was doing a lot of the signature and like avatar request designs for people. And that was me practicing with Photoshop as I was just getting into it, because I had just started taking photography and I had a Photoshop design class that I was going for a degree for. And that was the way I practiced, was making banners and avatars for all of the users that requested them on the website. And I think my skills got better and better as I kept on making these things. Some people really demanded a lot, though, out of those. Like, they had a lot of edits and requests and stuff like that. And I, looking back at it now, it's like, if I was a professional, I would have charged you for each edit. and some people had 10 requests after I sent them a thing. They'd make me re-edit it like 10 times. It's like, I'm doing this for free. For a message board.
But I mean, that kind of shit used to be important back then as well.
Yeah, the graphics you had on your profile made you look so much more important and cool. Yeah,
because this is before social media had really taken off, so these little message boards were like little social media sites. And but yeah, that's fun thinking back on the signatures. There are these little banners that would be at the bottom of your post. Every time you would post, people would see this little banner and people would do artwork, and they'd have like their username, and it would look all flashy and stuff. And there was a thread that was like signature requests, so people that were into Photoshop, like you, Mike.
It still exists. That thread.
I think did I make that board?
I need to go back.
I don't know if I made that thread, but I at least made the rules for the requests on that one. I remember, because I got to the point where I was like, I can't handle this anymore. Like, you guys need some rules.
And for those of you listening, we've had another staff member join us, Eric, aka Xenomorphine. Welcome to our 200th podcast.
Yes, it was a whole big thing. I had camera issues getting on here, so thank you, Windows Update. What are we talking about exactly? Just memories and...
Yes, we're just reminiscing about the site and our involvement and things we've gotten to do and our history. And Eric, I remember you were a global moderator the exact same time I was.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, well, we still are, but you were made one early 2013. We both were. And we were stoked about that, I remember.
Yeah, I did some banners for people as well. I forget who it was. Somebody wanted me to make one about Lambert and her demise, just to kind of semi-troll people. And yeah, the banners are still a thing on there. It's kind of moved. It's been interesting seeing the move shift from the forums to more general purpose social media. It's the same old stuff gets talked about on all of them, except we organize it a bit better because we've got actual subject headings.
Yeah, I cannot for the life of me stand fucking Facebook or Discord as a place of discussion. You know, It's too chaotic.
Hazard. Yes.
Yeah.
You log off for an hour on Discord and you come back and there's 250 messages that you have to scroll through, and it's like, is there anything of substance in here? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know, but I'm just gonna skip all of it.
No, usually I find there is, but there's been 5,000 since then, and you go, I've got a really good response.
Yeah,
no,
it's not worth it at this point.
No.
Yeah, not at this time of the day.
Topics are much more easier to deal with because you're just like, okay, that sounds interesting. I'll read that. I've got something to contribute there. I'm not going to get lost in everything else.
Well, and that was one of the nice things about, kind of echoing back to what we talked about earlier, when we were all doing this on a PC or a computer, we didn't have our smartphones to like log in every hour and read the new posts on AvP Galaxy. We had to, for me, it was like I got home from school and then it was the first thing I would do was log on to AvP Galaxy and see all the new posts. And then it wasn't like overwhelming, or it wasn't like you could just be up to date all the time. You would have to wait to get to your next responses because you weren't always accessible to this stuff. It wasn't accessible all the time to this stuff. Like I have my phone and I'm checking AvP Galaxy like once an hour, probably every day, because I'm just so addicted to my phone. But I've also been a part of this site for so long that it's easy to be my first site that I check, and I think that's just been a habit for me. But back in the day, I had to get my mom's permission to go on the computer and log on to AvP Galaxy, and then there was new discussions and I could put in my say, but then I'd have to probably wait till the next day to be able to respond to a lot of people. And it was like, it wasn't so like the Discord thing where there could be 5,000 messages, since I mean now there can be because there's a lot more members on the site, but like it was a whole different situation back in the day.
It's probably a more healthy internet.
Yeah, yeah, I think it was.
For me, it was during school. I would go to the computer lab during lunch in 2004 when we were looking for like. Well, I don't think I was breaking any rules. I don't think I cared, as long as you were on break and it wasn't like for a class. But yeah, that's
in the computer lab at school checking out things, and they all thought it was something. It's just an alien and predator fan site.
What's that big penis-shaped thing that you're looking at, Adam?
Well, I remember having to be careful about things like the chest burster, because the caps that we had with all the blood in the background, and everybody always used to have their chest burster page and the life cycle pages. And it used to have to be a case of, okay, keep this minimized. Don't want the teacher to see me looking at gore and blood and everything.
Well, especially because Giga's art is synonymous with this, and you crack open a book with Giga's art on it, and you're gonna land on a penis. That's just the way it happens.
And maybe 17 of them at the same time.
Yeah, literally cannot see the wood or forest for the trees. Yes.
You can certainly see wood, Eric.
Yeah. I didn't want to say anything, but yes, you can.
But even though our site started from that game that was really popular on the PC at the time, AvP2, we really took off covering the excitement for the AvP film. From 2003 to its release in August 2004, we were just posting all the news we could find.
Darkness.
Well, Darkness was, yes.
And
we were not.
He had some other staff. He had another staffer at that point as well, but I don't think that person stuck around very long.
Okay. But yeah, that's how we got bigger. And then again, I think AVPR, a lot of people were anticipating AVPR. And so that was a big time for us.
Big thing. AVPR was the giant thing because we had the fucking directors of the film on our boards, talking with everybody. And again, some of that speaks towards our emotional immaturity at the time.
Sorry, guys, if you happen.
Which in some regards is embarrassing as fuck, because we were still we were older teenagers, but we were still teenagers.
Those guys were so nice, though. The Strauss brothers. I remember they would give us their Xbox 360 gamer tags, and we just hop on and play Call of Duty 4 with them. Like it was crazy that they would just do that with nerds on the internet.
I don't remember that, I'll be honest.
Well, he gave it to me anyway. I actually met up with them in person. I remember there was this little sci-fi and comic convention in LA that was in this older building in downtown. And that's where they showed off the first footage for AVPR, and the directors were going to be there. And I remember just telling my dad at the time, I was like, oh, that sounds so cool. He was like, oh, you want to go? Let's go. And it was one of those times where my dad was just a super awesome dad. And he's like, let's fly out and go. What, it's next week? All right. So we flew out there for a day and went to that little convention, and the Strauss brothers were there, and they showed off the first footage from the film. It was the scene.
Did you do a write-up for us from that?
No.
Okay. I know we covered it. I remember.
Maybe I posted it on the forum. I'd have to go back and look, because I did do a description of the footage I saw there. But yeah, I remember taking some of the posters up to the directors, and they signed them for me. I have one right back there on my wall. You can see it. And I remember thanking them. I was like, thank you guys for just like coming on our site and like talking to us. Like, that's just so cool of you to do. So it was a fun little trip.
Yeah. Not long after that was, I think, when I got to do my first proper thing for the, like, I don't want to say proper thing, but, you know, like, I got to venture out and be more than just a little nerd on the internet. You know, I remember, it sounds so fucking silly now, but, you know, I remember the excitement at getting a press pass to go to Eurogamer, to go, and I literally spent the entire fucking day at the Rebellion booth watching people play AvP 2010, you know, talking to the Sega reps there, and sitting there recording fucking footage of randomers just playing this game. And it was kind of funny as well, because I was coming back from holiday and missed what day my ticket was for. And then the panic of, oh God, I'm not going to be able to get there now. My ticket's not valid. They'll not let me in for the next day. And panickingly emailing the Eurogamer people and being like, oh, I'm stuck on an aeroplane in Turkey. I can't get over. But even then, you know, just going towards the access thing, you know, I had to do it from a webcam in an airport kind of thing, because I know I didn't have my phone in my pocket. But that was a huge thrill for me. And then being able to like go to Rebellion's studio, that was the kind of shit that I used to be there admiring the people at AvP News for. The opportunities that they got to do of interviewing the game devs and going to studios and stuff like that. And when I finally got to go to Rebellion to get a hands-on with AvP 2010, I will never forget fucking walking around, you know, that studio floor and talking to people, or playing the game for the first time on a projector in their big boardroom, and to then going to doing things like us going to premieres. How fucking wild is that bullshit? You know, we're little nerds sat in our bedrooms coding and talking on a message boards as kids, to being invited to premieres. Not all of them we enjoyed. Mr. Zeller and his,
it's been pretty wild. Yeah, my first was a bit rough. It was The Predator in 2018, and Aaron was setting it up for me, and he was like, "You want to go to Toronto or you want to go to LA?" And I was like, "Oh, well, I see it a week earlier if I go to Toronto, and I've been to LA a bunch of times, so I'm like, Canada sounds more fun, more interesting. Sure, let's do it." But yeah, it was a film festival premiere, and I should have known from going to Sundance that would mean everything was much more packed and crowded. And so they squeezed me, this one-man film crew, in between like these big outlets that were like, "Who are you with?" You know, and I'm like, "I don't know, I'm a fan site. They just put me here to ask questions to the actors on the red carpet." And the vibe was bad, because that movie got Me Too'd the day of the premiere, if you guys remember. And I remember seeing the movie, and it's a premiere, it's a film festival. People are going to clap and have a good time. But I remember walking back to my hotel just like, wow, Alien Covenant last year, and this year we get this. Like it was a very, I mean, I had a nice time in Toronto. I went to the museum. I met up with another friend there from the site, but I still had a nice time in Toronto. But I do wish I would have just gone to the Egyptian Theater a week later, because another one of our staff members, Master Chief, went there, and he said it was nice, it was pleasant. So But yeah, I mean, I've had much better experiences since then. The Prey premiere, oh my god, like that totally made up for it, because Mike got to go to that one with me, and that was
My
just
poster's
such a
right
wild
there.
time. And yeah, that was at Comic-Con. That was my first time at Comic-Con, and it was just a great premiere. And then we got invited to the after party 2 days later, and I know Mike hated me because he was like, "Oh no, I am not driving down to San Diego again." I was like, "We are so going. We have to go." But
it was that part. It was going from LA to San Diego and LA to San Diego. That was the hard part. We would have just been staying down there. It would have been a much different situation.
Yeah, we should have, because they had an open bar. They had Predator themed drinks. They had carved meats
probably
and
would have.
shit. We were being called Disney shills. Like, it was.
They
great.
were calling us Disney shills. Yeah,
and
that's when you know you've made it.
Didn't Dan sort us those invites as well?
No, I think Kendrick. Well, Dan got us the invites for the premiere.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Kendrick got us the invites for the after party.
For you guys, I ended up getting mine through Collider.
That's right.
Yeah,
you did a competition.
Yeah.
Again, it's not to sound ungrateful, but it's kind of curious. On the shills bit, that as cool as it is that we do get to do some of these events, it's not always a great experience. Adam, you fucking hated the Prey, not the Prey, the Predator premiere. You said that was one of the worst experiences you'd had. To me, I had
what happened? Why did you think?
I was nervous, and they shoved me in between two film crews, and I literally had to fight to get questions answered on the red carpet while I was trying to focus on my questions. And I'd spend the whole day preparing for sit down questions, because I thought it was going to be a room where I would sit down with the actors like you had with Ridley Scott, Aaron.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. It was just fighting for little 1 minute long questions. So it's like all the questions I'd been prepping for that whole day, I couldn't ask that because that would have been like too in depth. I had to just do very basic questions. I had to fight for those questions. And it was frustrating, like trying to get in there in between these film crews that are way more experienced doing this sort of thing than I am. And then I'm like, that was a nightmare. Well, I hope I liked the movie. Going in there, just it being the worst. I mean, I enjoyed being there. I guess I took whatever enjoyment I could out of that experience, and that was my first big Predator premiere. So, I mean, that aspect was really cool.
And like, I had a bad experience at Romulus.
Yeah, that was surprising to me. I felt so bad because, that's just not the first way to watch a movie.
Yeah, you don't have control at those events. It's you get what you get, and sometimes those things are chaotic, to say the least.
Yeah, well, I mean, to be fair, I had a good time until I sat down in Romulus, and then I was a grumpy motherfucker. But that's while we get these opportunities, we are also just a little fan site, so it's not like we're like Collider or Bloody Disgusting, where one of us is doing these every other fucking week or anything like that. So there is a little bit of ignorance on our part, I think. Like Adam said, he went in there expecting to be doing a press junket. I attended my first press junket with no fucking clue what the experience was like. So, I still think of that interview with Ridley Scott as one of the most wasted moments of my entire fandom career.
It seemed like he had a similar mindset. He didn't understand quite what was happening.
Well, I'd gone in there with the fucking 10 questions written down on my tablet, and I
literally needed Fassbender to help you out. It was great.
But no, I would have asked Ridley different questions if I'd have realized, look, you've only got time for 3 questions with both of them.
But that's how we learn, is having those frustrating experiences, and then we're better prepared for next time. Like the interviews I've done,
doesn't happen. That's the thing. You went in expecting press junket at the Predator. I emailed Fox going, "Okay, I'm ready. When's the press junket for the Predator, please? I know what I'm doing now." And they were like, "Oh yeah, we're not having one."
You mean
the UK for this?
For the Predator. That's right, because you went to the premiere for that there too.
No, I only went to a press screening.
Oh, right, in the Fox offices, right?
Yes, in London.
Okay.
Yeah. And there was no junket for Romulus. There was no junket for Prey. I attended the Prey premiere not fucking knowing I was going to a premiere. I went to it thinking I was going to a press screening.
They called it a gala screening over there.
And I'd never heard of that term until that event. So I show up in fucking t-shirt and jeans, not in any casual smarts. And then once Dan introduced the film, I noticed this person show up in the seat next to me that hadn't been there before. And I'm like, is that Dan T? So throughout the film, I'm just there trying to catch him in the light scenes so I can see his face better. So yeah, I watched Praise premiere, not knowing it was a premiere in Scruffs, sat next to the director. That's fucking cool.
Yeah, that sounds like it was a fun time, and I'm sorry Romulus was a bit frustrating, but I mean, I'm sure the event itself was fun.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, just like Covenant, right? Like you got to walk on the carpet, and did you get to walk on the carpet for Romulus?
Not the main carpet, a carpet.
Okay. Because for Covenant you did.
No.
I thought you got pictures in front of that thing.
So Covenant's thing was different because that was during the wind-up age of social media influencers and social media stars. So they had like a separate event that was for influencers, and that was people like, I still think it's random as fuck, and Lee doesn't really know how he got the invite either. But you know, Lee, who the fuck, from Xenopedia, you know, he was in there as an influencer. They got to walk down the green carpet and then not see the film. So they saw an early screening of it the day before, got to walk the green carpet, and then not go see the premiere.
Did they know that in advance? Or
I think.
Where's the film?
I think so. Okay. I think so. And they had like their own sort of round table session with Ridley, where it was all of them in a room with Ridley chatting away. But like, this is how random all these kind of events are, and how they all change depending on the trends and popular things at the time. But then, like, Eric, you got to go do something cool for Covenant, didn't you?
Yeah, that was with Lee. And I did a search for it on YouTube, and I discovered there's footage of me walking around the hall looking super serious at and all I'm doing is like figuring out how do I best take photos of this costume up there. But I'm looking like I'm really into it. But
so for context, what was it?
I'm on German TV, apparently. It was I think it was Alien Day as well.
Yep. YouTube space Alien Day.
Yeah. And they had the stuff from the whole thing was basically Covenant. They had a little bar with alien themed drinks, and it was like that acid flavored blah blah blah. There was 2 of them. I don't remember the names. Yeah, and most of it was basically the costumes, and they were all behind these glass caskets. There was another part you could walk up to that had an opened egg and the face huggers that were from the film, because they were from those kind of spore pod designs. I'm pretty sure most of the photos are in the article I wrote up. But the really cool thing was that none of us knew until it was like, you know, announced. They did Connor O'Sullivan, who's the creature effects supervisor, and he did like this miniature talk, and they unveiled the head of the alien that was being used in the film. And this is before the film had come out. And I was like, oh, God, yeah, okay, camera out. Let's get this exclusive. And I wasn't expecting that at all. So I just did one of those Twitter live things. That's on the article as well, if anyone wants to look at that. He did his own like speech about that. And then after it, because I was thinking, yeah, I'm getting all these for the site. These people haven't seen what the head design looks like. I went up to him and said, would you mind me doing this small interview? So I carried out this interview, completely improvised. But he was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. You know, if you don't ask, you won't get. That was the best thing about it. And at the end of the day, everybody was taking the facehugger props, with which they had many. Nobody seemed to care. So everybody was
I bet they were
those.
just like the A-box ones, though. So I think you can get away with that.
Those are the promotional ones that came out around Covenant time. But yeah, if you haven't checked that out, Aaron's got one right there.
It's up here, but I don't want
to go back and read that article, because Eric, you did such a great job on that. Like, oh yeah, there it is, crawling up on the wall.
Up on the wall. That is the actual one. Like, and I only took it after nobody seemed to care. Even the security staff saw it. They were completely unfazed. So
I think they look the same. So it's probably the same. Molds that
I think it's got the same veins.
Yeah.
We got a goodie bag, which is really nice. I don't have it now. I wore it the other day when doing the RPG. The Covenant logo. There's like a bottle opener as a face hugger. It's very cool little stuff. I took that out at the end of the thing, and I did a video of saying, if you have ever wondered what happens. Yeah, that was it. It was mostly the costumes, though. There was hardly any actual equipment, props, or anything. They were really into showing off the costumes. But yeah, it looked like if somebody made a museum to Alien Covenant, it was like that. And it was cool going through this second section. But yeah, it was a nice day out. That was.
I wonder if that's some of the stuff that is that some of the stuff that we saw at the 40th anniversary.
So that was another thing I got for you guys as well, wasn't it? You know, an actual walkthrough of the display with the curator, and you guys got to do this really awesome interview and article and video. Video. You did a video of that one, didn't you?
Yeah, it was like a video slideshow, maybe.
Yeah, so that was the day we met in person, Mike, finally. And we had been chatting, I think, more frequently. Such a what?
Such a lovely day. Such a lovely
That was
day.
a good day. We had a fun night that night, too. But
we got drunk that night.
But so I was staying in downtown LA, and I remember, like, I was in the midst of my photography studies at the time at my university, and I knew you were a professional photographer, so I wanted to learn from you, you know. So I thought it was a cool idea to like meet up at this. It was at University of Southern California. Is it their film? Film part of campus. Which oh man, I wish I could have gone to school there. Like that campus was nice. But yeah, it was such a cool museum that they had set up. It was a lot of Prometheus and Covenant stuff, but it did go through all of Alien. But most of the really impressive props were from Prometheus and Covenant. Like they had the full size engineer outfit.
They had a bunch of cool production documents and stuff on display. Though,
some old sketches
from Alien,
old scripts,
Polaroids.
And they did have some older stuff too, like Ripley's chest, like the X-ray scan from Alien 3, that was there. So some Studio ADI stuff they had. I can't remember the curator's name off the top of my head.
Alex Ago.
That's right. So we interviewed him, and you got some footage for me, Mike. We both took video. We both took a lot of photos.
A lot of photos.
I'm sure I was asking you questions about how you're doing your photography, and you were helping me out. And we posted a gallery where you can see like all my photos, all Mike's photos, and that YouTube video did pretty well, I think. Also, like YouTube, we didn't really start doing YouTube more until 2018, I believe, and I think it was Ghost Recon, like the Predator stuff. Like we kind of started with that, I believe. But that was a great little trip, and it wasn't long after that.
The next day we went to. Well, before we go to that, the next day you brought me to ADI.
That's right.
That was my first time visiting the studio and got to meet Alec, and that was when they still had their showroom that was still a little bit more full, but they have sold off a lot of that stuff. But you introduced me to Alec, and I had the balls to pull out my toy photography and just show him some of my monster photography. And he was like, that's really great. Do you want to come back and just photograph some of these things sometime? And I was like, so then I got to go to ADI one day by myself and shoot photos of a lot of that cool stuff. And
is that when you saw
photograph the Blomkamp Xenomorph?
The maquette,
yeah. It was one of those situations where Alec was like, "You probably shouldn't photograph this, but I want to see what you do with it." And he just brought it in, and I was like, okay. And then when I sent him the photos, he was like, these look awesome, but don't ever share the Blomkamp ones. And I was like, oh, that was the whole reason why I wanted to share these. And then shortly after that, Joe Rogan posted photos of it. And then a couple of years later, I was like, fuck it. And they're on my website now if people want to see them. That was a cool experience, getting to meet Alec and spend time with him. And then thanks to Adam going with that and all that stuff. And we got to see the Predator, the Predator, Fugitive Predator's head.
So that was my second time at Studio ADI, and the first time was before we had seen anything from the Predator, and it was late 2017, which you also set up for me, Aaron. And that's when I went there and did a written article and got to meet both of them. And I was nervous as hell.
Interview?
Yeah,
the video interview.
Yeah, and
that's a good interview.
Yeah, Christopher Cooksey helped me set up, and thank you so much, Christopher, if you're listening, because he really made us feel at ease when my girlfriend and I came in there and we chatted it up. And of course, Alec and Tom Woodruff Jr. were just super friendly and down to earth. And it's always nerve-wracking because you're meeting these guys that you watched all these special features of growing up, and these guys are like your heroes. They've done like all these creature effects, and they're just nerds like us, and it was really cool just getting to see that workshop and talk to them. But yeah, I remember seeing the facial sculpt for the Fugitive Predator. I was like, is that from the new movie? And Alec was like, oh, and he just covers it with a tarp or something. But yeah, the visits we did get to ADI, and we would go back again, I think, Mike, after that. And I know you've been other times since. So those guys have always been super great with us. And even with Romulus, it's been great, like chatting to more of the effects guys and the concept artists. And that's just such an important part of what makes these movies come to life. And it's something we want to put more effort into exploring for sure. But I remember meeting up with you two, Aaron and Eric, as well for the first time in summer of 2017 in London.
I was thinking, Madame Tussauds.
Yeah, that's right. It was July. My mom and I had been through a rough time for the previous 2 years with my dad's cancer. And we were like, you know what, when this is all over, let's just go to Europe for a few weeks. And I hadn't been to the UK since 2006. So it had been like a minute for me. And I loved London when I went the first time. But we were going to explore more of the country this time. And I'd become better internet friends with both of you, I think, at the time. And so I was like, I need to make some time just to hang out with these guys and meet up with them. And it happened to land on the opening of an Alien Covenant exhibit at the Wax Museum down in Tussauds. And Aaron, you set us up with a press event for that. And that was awesome, just meeting up with you guys that night. They had champagne there and the fire alarm went off and they kicked us all out.
But we went back the next day, didn't we? Or the day?
We went back a couple days later. So we got to do it again. That was fun. And then we saw the third Planet of the Apes movie. Yeah. And we went to this pub in London that had it was underground. It had this big tree in the middle.
Yeah. Was it that one? Well, we might have done a couple of pubs because if you remember rightly,
that's right.
We recorded our first in-person podcast.
That was after we went to the Barbican because they had a
sci-fi exhibit.
And they had some alien stuff there. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. You can still listen to that one and that podcast in the middle of
that one's terrible. Yeah, I was very overconfident in what noise removal would do for that.
Yeah, wasn't the original Aliens head? I think.
Yeah, it was one of the
86 because I remember it had the ridges and
I think they had one of the Giger Alien 3.
Oh yeah, did they have his lion?
Yeah, they had one of them. Because then I just went to the Giger Museum a few weeks later, and they had.
Yeah, they had like concept art and paintings and stuff. They had a lot of stuff at that Barbican.
That was cool.
So that was a lot of fun. I'm definitely overdue to go back to the UK, and you are way overdue to come to the States, both of you. So.
But remember,
get out here, boys.
Eric and I are poor working class boys. You got to remember this.
I'm right there with you. One day I'll get out to you guys. One day. If that ever happens.
Eric's lucky to have food at this time of year from every other podcast we've done, from what I remember.
That brings back the "what did you get for Christmas" question.
Yes. Oh man.
But then to take it back, oh, go ahead, Aaron.
No, you'd reminded me of something I was going to bring up, but I've completely forgot it now. I need to do better at taking notes. Go ahead, Mikey, if you've got.
I was going to say to go after the ADI stuff that we talked about. Then we got in 2019, just a few months after that first ADI visit, we got to go to Adam and I got to go to the 40th anniversary short screening.
That's right.
That in LA at the Fox Studio backlot, and that for me was like my first big like, awesome. Oh my gosh, I'm going to the studio to see something, and that was a lot of fun. We got to talk to the directors, and there was the Q&As and everything, and I met Jamie from Perfect Organism for the first time, Nick from Who's Nick, he was the Hybrid Network, I think, around then.
At the time.
Yeah. There was one other person I can't.
Fanbase Press. I'm trying to remember.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bryant, maybe?
Yeah.
Bryant,
yes. Yeah. Very nice guys. All awesome people. And we've all kind of kept in touch after all these years too. But yeah, that was for me my first, besides the 40th anniversary exhibit, this was like something that felt like this is a big deal. This is behind the scenes. People don't get to see this in the theaters. These are only going online. So this is a big, awesome experience that we get to have right now. And being at the Fox studio for the first time in my life, I was like, if this is what it's going to be like, holy moly, this is crazy. And it was just only like 2 months after I moved to LA and was still getting used to the city and everything. And I was like, is this what LA is like? And I've learned that yes and no, it's not. It's a little bit of both. Yeah.
And we also did on that previous visit after the 40th anniversary exhibit and Studio ADI, we did that attraction together. So we just had a Alien couple of days there. We did Alien Descent in Anaheim, and that was a lot of fun.
That wasn't.
I still can't believe.
Was it? I didn't
know.
We
just ended up going. Yeah. I can't believe we drove all the way from Studio ADI's in Chatworth to Anaheim, which is such a long drive when I think about it now, after having done that commute from Bandai when I was living here at my current apartment. That was like, I can't believe we did that drive.
Yeah,
but it was worth it.
For me, that's fucking hilarious, because when I message Adam going, I've got an opportunity to do this. How far is it? You're in America, right? That's not a big country. And then when you say things like that, where ADI and Alien Descent's both California?
Southern
California, but it's like what, fucking 3-hour drive or something stupid like that.
It kind of was that day. Yeah, I mean, you say that's stupid, but when you do that kind of stuff every day as a commute, that's where my brain clicked, because I was doing that every day as a commute for my job, and it was like, yeah. So I'm surprised. That's why I look back at it and I laugh, because when that became my commute, I can't believe that we did that back in the day. I wouldn't have allowed that in this time of my life. But back when I was new to LA, I was like, yeah, let's do it. That's great. Let's go to see some more Alien stuff. And then we did it, and I wore a headset that was way too big, and I felt like I was flopping around in my headset, but it was still a lot of fun. I wish we could go back and do that again, but unfortunately it's I don't think not there anymore.
That's probably not an experience many people will be able to claim to have had.
Yeah.
So I mean,
and it did pretty well, I think. And that was the second time I had done it. I did it a year prior with my girlfriend, and they had changed the ending. So
was that a special one?
No, I don't know if you set that up for me or not.
I can't remember if you did any opening,
but it was open. No, I didn't. Someone else wrote something up for us when it first opened, but yeah, it was open to the public both times I did it. And the first time it didn't have this queen at the end. It was just kind of anticlimactic. You go up the elevator, you're on the catwalk, you go on your dropship, and you fly off. But they changed, I guess they got that feedback because they changed the ending. And when Mike and I did it, you would fight this queen alien. It was like a final boss fight, and it was just so cool because the dropship was arriving and she was on the catwalk, and you could feel like the wind as you get out of the mine and you get to the planet's surface, like it got colder. You could feel the wind. God, I just wish they'd bring that back, especially having played Rogue Incursion now. I'm like, can we get like those graphics with that attraction and just have the ultimate, most immersive alien thing ever? Like, so
you guys mentioned earlier, I remember what I was going to bring up now, Mackie. So you guys mentioned like meeting Alec and Tom for the first time. I still remember the first time I met Charles, Dolores Arica, because that whole situation for me was like a big holy fuck, because I was invited to speak at a convention, a big aliens sort of celebration thing that they were doing over here. And I was invited to speak on a panel about Prometheus. And Charles was there, and a bunch of the cast were there. And I hadn't really, at that point, been to many conventions. I hadn't really stood in front of the cast or the crew. And, I only really knew Charles from brief interviews I'd read about him. And, I remember the organizer telling me, jokingly, because I'd been out with the organizer a few times, Andrew David Clark, who worked on some like fan films and fan documentaries and stuff like that. And him telling me, Charles is in the green room. He's not happy with you. And I'm like, oh shit, what have I done? This is my first time meeting these people. And it was funny because it was kind of like my first sort of experience of word things better, Aaron. Because I think I'd put in a review of a book, what can this thing do that Charles de Lozerica hasn't already done in the in the documentaries and stuff, and the phrase was I'd put something like about passion, because it was the book of Alien, and Ian Nathan had written it from a very sort of personal point of view, and I was like, how is this different from the documentaries? And Charles said something to me like, so I didn't have any passion in the quadrilogy or the anthology box set. So I was like, ooh, shit.
I can hear him saying that to you too. That's the funny thing.
Yeah, because I love Charles. He's joined us on the podcast many times at this point.
Has he passed away now?
No.
Oh, you're thinking Charlie Lippincott. You're thinking the publicist from Alien.
Or J.W. Rinsler, is that who you're thinking of? Maybe.
Yeah, might have been.
Okay, the book.
Yeah. No, Charles is still around. Yeah, he was at
directing movies.
Yeah, he had a short film recently that's been making the festival circuit that I actually caught called Honk, which was a cool little horror short. But we met up with him at the Prey premiere. Mikey happened to be there, and he was at the after party too. So
I felt like such a dweeb because we're talking to him, and I was like, "So who are you?" And he's like, "I'm Charles de Lozerica." I was like, "Why do I know your name?" He goes, "I did some documentaries. I did the one on the Alien Blu-rays," and I was like, "Oh my god!" It's just like complete idiot moment. Like, and I recognized him too.
Interviewed him. You fucking interviewed him.
I know. I was like, I think my mind was in a different place that night from driving back and forth to San Diego.
See, he is a very fucking important person, in my opinion. For me personally, as a fan, and I think for some of the approach I make us take when we're doing like our interviews and stuff, because prior to him, I never wanted to know about movies. Like, I never wanted to know the behind the scenes. I didn't want to spoil the magic of the movie making experience, but the comprehensive and fascinating documentaries on that quadrilogy just turned me around, ruined all coverage of films for me now, because if anything didn't meet that quality, I was just, this isn't as good as Charles' shit. I'm not interested.
He set the standard.
Fascinating. You saying you never wanted to before then? Because I remember growing up, like I was born in '78, and when I was growing up, every so often on TV they had something like, "How did the Star Wars films put lasers on screens?" That I grew up with like making of things, and you're saying you never wanted that before.
Never wanted it.
Interesting.
But then I had. Look, because I was obsessed with Alien, but I was more obsessed with the lore, the story of it. Reading about the life cycle, reading about the comics and stuff like that. And that's not to say I'm not still. I very much fucking am still. But he is the one that got me interested actually in the behind the scenes. I went to college to do film and television. My intent coming out of school was to go and work in the film industry. And it was all because of Charles and those documentaries. And now with studios entirely dropping the fucking ball on giving us that kind of quality of behind the scenes now, it's because of Charles that we do what we do. It's why we hunt down the concept artists, the actors, people who we can that work on these films. I'm now aping or intending to ape the way he did his commentaries and do something for Romulus myself, because because studios and Disney's let us down, and it's from talking to him and finding out the ways that he produced his content that we're doing things the way that we do them.
I remember that was just such a core part of me really getting into the fandom, because that was also part of the excitement and lead up to AvP in 2004. Was the quadrilogy Alien set came out in I think it was October 2003 or something like that, and at the time, we had not seen a DVD set like that, where you, at least the American version, I know that the British version was kind of contained a little differently, but the American version, you would just unflip it and unflip it and unflip it, and by the time you had unflipped the whole thing, it was like the length of a person, of just this booklet of discs. And yeah, I had never seen that kind of comprehensive of a set before, and I remember watching all the movies and the new cuts and going through all the material and just being so fascinated, and it only really just cemented my interest in that universe. And I had always been interested in special effects, and that's also when I started my university studies. I wanted to get into filmmaking a bit. And I went to a film charter high school a little bit, so that was very much a passion of mine growing up. And another one of my best friends, Jeff, I remember I was in my later high school years, I was one of those kids that had a laptop, and so I was looking at like Alien and Predator stuff, and he was like, "Oh, Alien Predator, that's cool." And that was like the catalyst for us getting to know each other and becoming friends and staying friends to this day. So but I remember there was this old special effects book, which I just had you an image of, Aaron. It was just DK's special effects in film and television, and I think that was one of the first things that really got me into like behind the scenes of movies. I believe I still have that book. I have to look. But yeah, Charles's documentaries have always been fantastic. Even the 4-hour one to Prometheus, and it was kind of cathartic for me because I was
better than the film.
Yeah,
It was more entertaining than the film.
Yeah, it was. I got more out of that than I got out of Prometheus itself, I thought, because there was just so much artistic energy that went into Prometheus that wasn't fully conveyed in the final finished film that he really delved into. And unfortunately, he did not return for Covenant. Oh, there's the book. Yeah. So if you can still find that one, see if it's on. Oh yeah, you can buy it used on Amazon. Very good little special effects book for people that are just getting
and then it. And Charlie set the standard with those. Like he spoiled us, because now when we don't get those for an Alien movie, it just feels like there's something incredibly lacking. Like same with Covenant didn't have it, Romulus doesn't have it now, and we all come to expect something like that with these movies, and now we don't get them, so it is kind of a letdown. And like I said, we've been spoiled by these documentaries, and to echo what you guys said, I think I had a little bit of interest in special effects more from the Godzilla end of my fandom, because I would always be interested in their set designs and buildings and stuff like that. But then once I got those quadrilogy DVDs, I remember they came out in like October or November, because my grandparents from Alaska were in town, and my dad brought home the set because I bought it and he brought it home for me, and I couldn't watch them right away because my grandparents were in town. But I dove into those special features, and that really got me more into the franchise. I think it allowed us to appreciate the work that went into these movies, even if some of them crashed and burned a little bit, like Alien 3. It was fascinating to learn about how that movie went through the ringer, and gave me, I think, the ability to appreciate what we got even more, even though it's still not the best possible version of what we could have had. There's
with the AC
there's
as
so
well.
much. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I suppose it was the special cut in the quadrilogy thing.
But. Yeah, but it just still like those, and then because of those, I started like watching all the Predator special features, and those Blu-ray DVDs and Blu-rays. They had pretty good special features, but they were nothing's never been as good as what Charlie makes. And I still have to watch his Blade Runner ones. I'm sure those are great. I've heard they're great, but the Alien stuff that he made, we are so lucky to have it, in my opinion.
And he still does stuff. Like I think he did the behind the scenes doc for Civil War and the final season of David Lynch's Twin Peaks. He did.
Because I think he did the an earlier normal Twin Peaks box set as well.
Oh,
if I remember rightly.
So he's still making documentaries. Disney.
I think. I mean, I remember when Alien 3 was being released, and I remember that was the first the Alien films that had one of the, like, before the film came out, they were doing lots of TV specials and stuff on the making of it, and you saw the special effects being made before it had even come out. I think we're talking about like the making of on special effects and stuff. I would see, this is something Mike would probably have a bit of expertise on, because I remember before Alien stuff, it was probably Star Wars that really had like the special effects stuff. But before that, in terms of monster films, the one I remember, it wasn't even sci-fi. It was about Jaws and the making of Jaws. And you aren't a Jaws fan unless you know all the problems that went on with the making of.
The shark is not working. The shark is not working.
Richard Dreyfuss saying that is burned into my brain.
The documentary that as the title, didn't they? The shark is not working. So it's more in recent years that we are getting this, thanks to Charles.
You say recent years, this was 20 years ago.
We haven't.
Yeah, the recent, like the DVD/Blu-ray era. Before that, you're getting like one-off kind of things, but it's interesting that a lot of this stuff has survived the years, because you'd get films that they become cult classics, but a lot of the stuff just hasn't survived. It's just not there to archive, and a lot of us, we were amazed at some of the stuff that has surfaced. Even the stuff with Burke in the Cocoon thing, where a lot of us thought, oh, that's been lost to time. They got a publicity still, and then we eventually got the footage of it.
Well, that's when we start to learn more about the politics, the studio politics behind all these kind of things. If I remember rightly, Charles will correct me if this ever comes across his desk, but from what I remember, they had it for the quadrilogy, but Lightstorm, Cameron's production company, didn't want it on the quadrilogy because Cameron was embarrassed by the footage. And then we eventually got it on the anthology because Charles twisted his arm in some way, or somebody twisted his arm in some way to be like, come on, the fans want to see this. They know behind the scenes stuff can be rough. Let's get it out there. So that's when we get to talk to these people. We get to learn more about the complications that go on behind every fucking facet of the fandom, and it's not always stuff that's known and realized, and it's again part of learning about the movie magic or movie fucking nightmare that we become more knowledgeable of as we start to fill in those gaps ourselves when we talk to the people. I can't imagine being the Alien fan I am without Charles. The quadrilogy is one of my core memories of being a fan. I remember getting it for Christmas the year it released. I remember staying up till 3-4 a.m. in the morning over my Christmas holidays, watching the documentaries, watching the random other little bits and pieces, because Alien is a franchise that has generally been well documented. You've got things like the Book of Alien, you've got Giger's Alien, Alien embraced the Laserdisc kind of era and had some good features on those things, and Charles compiled them on the quadrilogy and on the anthology. He proved me not fucking insane for a start. I have spoke about in the past, I should think, my first experience with Alien was something called Aliens Ride at the Speed of Fright, which was a motion controlled ride attraction video thing where you were strapped into chairs that moved, and there was some footage on the screen with Jeffrey Combs, the fucking legend that is Jeffrey Combs.
Was this very like just like a theatre-based thing, or were you on wheels like a roller coaster?
No, it was a theatre-based thing. It was moving
theatre.
chairs. It
Like the
was moving chairs.
Terminator 2 ride, yeah.
Yes, like T2 3D.
Well, it was more of a motion simulator, I think, than T2 3D, because T2 3D was pretty much stationary. Like your chairs
No,
were.
well, I thought you. Yeah, it was just
T2
chairs
3D.
moving.
The chairs drop at the end, and that was it. Like they're not actively.
You weren't actively like moving left and right. Okay.
It was more of a show. Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, the chairs moved and everything. Jeffrey Combs was the lead actor in it, hamming it up like fuck. I love Jeffrey Combs. I went to a convention to meet him, a Star Trek convention to meet him to get his signature on my AvP Galaxy poster because of that ride at the speed of fright, and because I love Wayoon, and because I love Shran as a big Trekkie. You can't be a Trekkie and not love Jeffrey Combs.
Yeah. So he was asking, "Oh, what was my favorite?
What was I actually in?" Yeah,
this alien thing he did.
And it was also directed by the guy who did Stuart Bird, the guy who did Frank Herbert the Reanimator, the one with Jeffrey Combs in it, the Lovecraft one. Yeah,
Combs is in that,
yeah. I hope I got the director's name right. He passed away recently. I say recently, it was probably like 5 years ago. But my point was, that was my introduction to the franchise. And I was on the boards for, how long would that have been? 5-6 years or so at this point. And no fucker else knew what I was talking about. Nobody else knew about this thing. I didn't even know the name of the attraction until Charles included the footage on the anthology release. And I was like, I'm not insane. This happened. This is the thing. I can finally see the footage. It's all over YouTube now. But, he proved me not fucking insane.
You thought it was your Mandela effect moment.
Well, I started to at one point. I started to wonder if I genuinely fucking made all this shit up. But I've since found pictures of the place that I saw it. It was at a theatre. Not a theatre, you fucking moron. It was at a theme park near Derby, near Ilkeston, I think, called American Adventure. And I've since joined loads of groups where I've found pictures of the alien heads and the facehugger. So it was a very, I guess, racially insensitive themed theme park nowadays with cowboys and Indians and all that kind of stuff. And there was above the theatre busts of your stereotypical Indians with their headdresses and cowboys and bandanas and shit like that, and they put facehuggers over the busts when they were doing the themed thing. And so I, knowing that I wasn't insane, I went and dug back into nostalgia archives and found stuff like that.
How was it like trying to explain what you witnessed to people who were like, what? Cowboys with facehuggers?
Well, that was a little bit of Mandela effect, if I'm honest, because I didn't remember them being facehuggers. What I had in my memory was a bust of an alien over the door. So, I was only 5 at the time. Well, no, it was the day before my 5th birthday. I was very young, so there was some fallible memory in there, but yeah, nobody knew what I was talking about until
I put a picture of it in the chat if you want to show it.
That is wild. Holy moly.
Oh, Adam's found the exact same picture I'm thinking of as well. So let me.
I'd never seen this before.
Oh, so it was the marine hats.
Yeah, that's kind of
as well as
realist looking.
What year was this?
It doesn't even look real. That's so
that is actually a thing, So I saw it in, well, if it was before my 5th birthday, it would have been 95.
Mid-90s then, right?
Yeah. But it was shown at another place in the UK. It was shown at Granada Studios in Manchester, where they did all the. Is it Coronation Street or is it? Well, I don't fucking know my soap operas. It was one of the soap operas where they had the standing sets, I think. So yeah.
Where was this? Was in England.
This was in Derbyshire. This was near Ilkeston, if I remember rightly. So it was fairly local to me. But yeah,
that right there, that's nightmare fuel. Seeing those dead eyes.
Well, that is that is one of the things that got me watching Aliens. It gave me nightmares for a million years. Rob Harvey
Imagine those
says,
were the.
that is the stuff of nightmares. Sarah in the chat says that is terrifying.
Imagine
Gasp.
those were the giant heads in Prometheus. That's what we ended up
Oh.
seeing in Prometheus instead of the, the engineer
Yes.
heads.
You know, I bet they would have met with HR Giga's approval.
Yeah.
Just use those.
Wild.
I am good. I'm good. I never got on the set of Prometheus when that was filmed over here, though. I did get the opportunity to go down to the set when it was being demolished and try and steal some bits and pieces, but I couldn't get down at the time that the other folk were going. But they did gift me some of the set floor, and it stank, and I eventually threw it away. But they got the space jockey gun telescope bit, where there's the bubbly bits on the end of it, where I think Ian White's pressing buttons. They got that bit. They rescued that bit from the skips outside, but I missed out on that. And I hate myself for it. I wish I'd have just driven down. And then
so you had the invite. You
I
just
had
didn't drive down.
It was an unofficial skip diving invite with a bunch of other fans. I would have loved to have got on their set properly. I did very nearly get on the set of Covenant, but that all kind of fell through because I don't think I had a passport ready at the time. So I'm kind of scrambling to get a passport, but also recognizing I'll probably not get on. I'm trying to arrange for I think it was Joe. I was trying to arrange for Joe to get on there in the end, but it just that being still on the boards. But that just all fell through, and I'm gutted because that seems to be something that they don't do anymore. That's the thing that isn't really. They don't invite press.
Yeah, they sometimes do. There was a press junket on the set of the upcoming Alien series, I remember, and we still haven't seen the reporting on that, but there was a bunch of media people that were out in Thailand for that. So
fair.
But nothing.
We didn't get an invite for that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They're still under embargo, so we haven't seen their reporting yet. But they've already done their set visit.
Okay.
They're going to be under embargo for a little while longer.
They probably want it all to come out when the TV show debuts, probably.
Yeah, it'll probably be when they do the proper marketing push for it.
Yeah,
but I would love to get on the set one day of one of these projects.
Yeah, same here. I mean, the closest I've gotten was going to Legacy Effects while they were building Scorched and seeing the concept of it. I got to go in one day and I came around a corner and I saw concept art of a xenomorph that was standing about 9 feet tall, printed out on multiple sheets of paper. And I was like, is that what I think it is? And the person just nodded and we acknowledged that we weren't seeing what we were seeing. And then we walked around the corner and then I saw the Bunraku kind of garbage bag, kind of like the Queen, but it was before they built the puppet version of Scorched. And then a year later, I got to come back and saw the final design. And again, was one of those, is that what I think it is? And then nodded, and I was like,
was that the one you saw that was printed out? Was that just like a reference of a generic alien, or was that the design they were looking at?
It was the design, but he didn't have the scar on his dome yet. And I didn't know about the scarring until I saw the final puppet head. And I was like, is that like a scar damage? And they were like, yeah. And because I could see right through the scar too, I'd see all the skull underneath and everything. And I was like, whoa, this is cool. Not knowing yet that there was multiple xenomorphs in the movie, because I hadn't seen the rough cut. And then about a month or so later, I got access to the rough cut because I knew people in a different area of the marketing and stuff. And that was a whole ride on its own. My YouTube channel shows a lot of that stuff that I probably shouldn't have shared over those months, but I still did, talking about the behind the scenes of the trailers and everything. But yeah, no, I've even got see if I can get the camera. Got the poster there signed by Fide and Alec Gillis and Shane Mahan. And then I've got this Legacy Effects little xenomorph thing that I think Adam has one of those. Of RidgeTop,
kept that secret.
And I got my,
I thought
and then I got a picture of. It's hard to get the camera closer, but that's Fede Alvarez on the bottom, a Polaroid I took of him, and then at the very top is Trevor Newland, the xenomorph actor. And those
was Comic-Con, wasn't it, for Fede?
That was Monsterpalooza.
Okay.
That's where they gave the poster out too. So that's where I got. There was a panel with Shane, Alec, and Fede, and yeah, they all signed those posters, and then I just asked Fede, "Can I snap this picture really quick?" And then I said, "I've seen your movie," and he's like, "What?" And he was like, "You haven't seen it yet if it's not done." And I was like, "Oh, okay. I saw the one Ridley saw, I think." And he's like, "Oh, you haven't seen it then." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then yeah, I mean, I did see much different things than the theatrical release had, which still. Surprised they didn't release that final scene on the Blu-ray. And that's the thing we were talking about earlier. It's just they're not giving us the meat and potatoes like we're used to having with this franchise. And
like even Prometheus.
That was a good video you did on the differences that you said about what you'd seen in the rough cuts and you were doing your direct comparisons as someone who's familiar with it.
And I did miss a few little details. Like there's a scene where in the deleted scenes that they had on the Blu-ray, it was Rain bumping into the dead body and the face hugger like shuffles behind her. I'd completely forgotten about that in the movie. It's so minuscule. Or them shooting at the xenomorph and it backs off in the hive. Like that stuff I just completely forgot about because it wasn't like huge. But when you watch the movie, you can see that there's a cut there. But now we've seen the concept art of what I had seen at the end with Dane's xenomorphs ripping through the offspring's body, and it became a xenomorph for some reason. I still am confused by that.
I got my hands on, I believe, the first draft of the film, of the script. That's not in there.
Interesting.
Him turning into an alien, and the Scorched is referred to as the burnt-faced or burnt-headed alien. Is how he's referred to in the script.
Interesting. Yeah, on set they called him Sparky.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But yeah, that's one of those scenes where we all, and this is just a tangent, but when I was watching it with the people that I saw the early cut with the first time, when that xenomorph ripped out of the offspring's skin, we were all like, what the hell? What was that? Like, so it wasn't like, that was awesome. It was more like, what the hell just happened there and why did that happen? And then it just is done.
Black goo doing whatever it wants to do.
Yeah, I guess.
I'm glad that was removed.
I am too. A lot of people saw the concept art and thought it looked awesome, and I could see it looking awesome when it was final effects, but realistically, it just for context in the movie and narrative, it didn't make any lick of sense, and they made the right choice keeping the offspring.
So Casper, one of our patrons in our chat, is asking us to give Prometheus some love, and as hard as that can be for me to do sometimes, I will. That was a big time for our site. Prometheus. That was a huge time for our site, actually, because we had gotten a tease in the Blu-ray set where Ridley Scott wrote the foreword to that he was finally doing his Alien prequel, which just ignited our imaginations. And all the viral marketing of that movie, the level of hype was just insane. And yeah, it was kind of a weird thing for us as well, because we heard it wasn't an Alien movie anymore, that they were changing it. But then we saw some leaked images and it was very obviously a Giger-esque looking space jockey room. And we're like, oh, wait, is it Alien? And then we see that first teaser that was leaked and you see the space jockey chamber and we're like, oh shit, this is like an Alien movie. So
do you have that note there with you, the one that came with the Blu-ray? Because what he writes on it, it's very intriguing, because it's clearly before they've actually come to any pre-production on the film, but he talks about, oh, you think there's the alien is the thing. No, he infers there's something much worse out there and he's going to put it in it, but it never materializes in Prometheus. And it makes me wonder, was that planned at an
it's the engineers, is what he means. So hang on, I've got it here.
Because I got it out and I went, oh, this must have been before Prometheus. And he says, oh, is it this bigger and badder?
Was it the engineers or was it the black goo?
Well, this would have been before Damon Lindelof was on board, so this was probably before they even had a script. This is probably when they were just
the original engineers. Or was it? Was he planning to do something else before engineers?
Well, no, engineers were in. So this came out around. This was 2010. So
Right.
they would have been. I know because the footnote of the thing here is 2010.
There you go, yeah.
First draft, right?
So they would have been working with Spates. I think his stuff was 09. He says now checking the script page. So Spates' last major draft. At least the one copy we have of it is July 2010.
Okay.
So yeah, he would have been talking about the Black Goo, or he'd have been talking about the alien, not the alien, the engineers.
Ridley
Scott. Oh, here we go. This set and these films exist largely because of your enthusiasm and support over the last 3 decades. I hope you enjoy what I have in store for you as we return to this dark, mysterious universe filled with aliens, space jockeys, and something even more dangerous that you haven't seen yet. Consider this the ultimate primer for us to come. So I guess he was talking about the Black Goo.
Yeah, I guess.
In context of that, but...
Yeah. And then we got that famous trailer teaser with the familiar music on it, which blew up the forums.
Such a wild teaser that was.
And that's funny because that was a whole other time of just to get into the politics of it, of the way we all reported and competed for news back then. Because if you guys remember, we got the leaked version of that trailer. We were the ones that posted that because of some. And this is us learning about the way things work at the time. It came from a survey website, where people could sign up to do surveys, and they would. And I think the same thing happened for Romulus's trailer as well, where they would show copies of the early trailers and get people's opinions on them, and somebody recorded it and then sent it over to us, and at that time. I think, who was that competition? Alien Prequel News, I think it was. His name was, he was another Christian. He wasn't Icarop. But we were like competing for leaked photos and details because nobody knew what it was at this point. We'd gone from it being this definitive Alien prequel when John Spates was working on it to this side tangent thing. When it became Prometheus, nobody knew what it was, and we all decided to still cover it anyway.
Well, the thing that really made everything hype city, it was when we definitely knew it wasn't just Ridley Scott, but it was H.R. Giger returning to work with Ridley Scott, and that blew the volcano basically.
And it amounted to very little for Giger's involvement.
But yeah, I was just so hyped for that movie, and I was an illustration major at the time, and I remember as my final for my drawing 1 class, we had to put something together using 3 musical instruments, and I did like the chamber that we saw in the teaser. I put it in the chat if you want to show it, Aaron. So I did like the Prometheus chamber from all these string instruments.
Would have been wild if you would have predicted the future and put a flute in there.
Right.
I was just going to say that, yeah.
But yeah, I was so hyped for that movie, and I still saw it. Like, even though it was very like, I got out of the theater and I was like, what was that? Like, I saw it at midnight. They handed out the IMAX posters, and the posters for Prometheus were just awesome. Like, just Shaw with the flashlight pointing up at
the visuals for it are just fucking awesome, regardless of what we think of the film.
Yeah, so I saw it a number of times, and when I met up with my current partner for the first time, that was the first movie she and I saw together in theaters when she was living in Southern California, and so that was kind of a point of connection and part of our history there too. And I remember one of the subsequent times I went to LA. I went to the Peterson Auto Museum, and they were having like a sci-fi vehicle exhibit, and they had the rover from Prometheus, and it was so cool to see that big thing that they built just up close. And I know they showed it off again recently at D23 this year, I think. So yeah, I mean, Prometheus, love it or hate it, it's definitely a very important part of the history of both our site engagement in our site and in the fandom, I would say. I mean, 2010, the lead up when we were hearing the first rumblings of Prometheus, it was also a big year for us with, AvP 2010. I think we got an interview with Lance Henriksen at the time, Aaron. Maybe Christian set that up.
That rings a bell.
No, that was me. Yeah.
Okay.
I think. Oh, it might have been Christian. I can't remember because Christian. We've never really talked about him really because he's been off the site for a long time. But he stepped in to do a lot of like the publicity stuff that I used to do and I do now.
Yeah. He also went into game development after he left.
Yeah, so he did a lot of gaming related event stuff for us.
Yeah, and Predators came out that year, which was really big for us at the time because we hadn't had a Predator movie in 20 years at that point. So there was a lot of excitement.
When Prometheus came out, that was the same year.
Prometheus came out 2012.
Right. Okay.
But we were hearing like the first rumors and rumblings of Prometheus in 2010 time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Predators was the first time I had something spoiled for me, and I didn't understand the concept of spoilers yet, and I didn't like that I saw what I saw. It was like the promotional or the behind the scenes photos with like a lot of like almost film stills came out, and it showed Mr. Black's face. And it was like literally the day I was going to see the movie or just the day before, and it was like, oh, there's things that I don't like to see before the movie actually comes out. I'm now understanding this concept of spoilers. And it was because AvP Galaxy posted them all. And I was like, thanks, guys. But it was one of those, I willingly clicked into it, not thinking and knowing. And I was a younger, less developed brain at the time. So I didn't even have a clue what I was about to see. And
so
I think we reported
Aaron to apologize on behalf of the site.
It was the thing. It was the thing that we all competed for,
yeah,
back
exactly.
then. And the internet's moved. Well, no, it can't decide if it's fucking moving away from it or not, because every time I've been pissed off by this, where everybody's sort of like begging us for spoilers and details and leaks, and then I'll go, okay, here you go, and then they'll go, what do you give us that for? I didn't want that. And then I'll sit there and smash my head on the fucking keyboard.
Yeah. I think we shared the script for Predators that leaked at the time too. Right, Aaron? You guys reported on that.
Probably, yeah.
And I remember reading that and being like, oh no, this looks bad. And then
it was terrible, yeah.
And then the movie came out and we loved it. At least Aaron and I loved it.
Well, that was the first press showing I got to go to as well. I remember going to watch that. I think it was at the Apollo Cinema in London, and that was my first experience going in there, giving them my phone and it getting bagged up by security and watching this. Oh, that was a wonderful experience. Bussing it down there, bussing it back. Fucking horrible. I hated it.
I remember someone did a write-up for us at the Austin premiere, like the premiere for the film.
Mr. Domino did that. That was Michael Siegler, I think his name was. He used to be a very very regular member who was into all the comics and the novels and everything as well. I always loved Mike. I always liked Mr. Domino.
So when did because AvP Galaxy, we don't just report on the films, it's the games and everything, because the next major fandom landmark would have probably been the hype build up for the Fire and Stone comic, because that was the first time they brought in the Prometheus stuff along with the Predator stuff. I think
the comics and the novels don't get anywhere near the same amount of fanfare.
It's the game and the movie. Games and the movies.
Yeah, games and movies.
Oh, yeah, of course. But that was the next, people saw, they're working Prometheus in it. You were getting this cool artwork for
it. It would have been, I mean, we definitely reported on it because we do always report on the new series and stuff. But no, it wouldn't have been a splash. I think the next big thing would have been Cloning Marines.
And Isolation a year later.
Yeah.
But Cloning Marines, we had just reported on for so many years, and to have that finally come out, and
when was that?
That was 2013, February 2013, or
yes.
maybe February, and then Isolation was a year later, and that was really big
we
for
had
us.
the hype for AvP 2010 before
Yes.
that was a big thing for us because it was we made the name with AvP 2, and this was the third game basically.
But between the movies of Prometheus and Covenant, that was pretty big gap because that was 2012 to 2017. So that was a slower time for us, I'd say. I mean, we still had books and comics to cover. We still had games to cover. And I think, honestly, a lot of the news for Neil Blomkamp's Alien 5 was getting a lot of attention.
That's what I was going to say, is that we had the rumblings of Blomkamp's movie. And that was like almost a reinvigoration of the fan base at the time, it felt like.
And that's actually the period that we actually got fairly regular actually doing podcasts. You know, was it 2013? Yeah, so 2013 was when we got a bit more regular. We only did about 6 episodes, so it was like once every 2 months, and then actually got a fair bit. Yeah, then we started getting really regular and actually picked
2014 onward, I would say we were pretty consistent about at least doing once a month. Yeah.
It always makes me laugh because I'm not a particularly sociable person, and I think this was why I never really wanted to do the podcast in the first place. You know, but the idea of putting my voice out there, the idea of being social, in a much more, I know it feels like the podcast, it feels like the videos, the streams are a bit more, I don't want to say intimate in a creepy way, but you know, it's more personable sort of way of putting yourself out there, and sometimes it can seem low effort if you don't put effort into it, you know. But I've always been very passionate about us putting effort into these things, you know, into doing good prep, into doing, you know, when we get to speak to people, into doing good enough prep to get interesting questions and everything like that. And as a non-social person, it's weird to me to have our faces now, you know, regularly plastered on all our outlets and everything.
Yeah,
and
it
to be
is
the public
worth
faces.
saying that whenever we do a video or, you know, back in the day, audio only podcasts and stuff, no matter what we speak about, no matter how long it is, Covenant trailer review, we're looking at you. Whatever you guys see us put out there, it is at most 50% of our research and notes, and the rest of us, we just don't come up in the conversation because we do put effort into doing the research and looking up videos and stuff for whatever we're doing, even if it's just like a commentary for a film. We will try to go that extra mile with looking stuff up about it so that we have talking points, but a heck of a lot of it just doesn't come up. But I think that's something people appreciate about our output with the videos and stuff. We don't just go, oh yeah, Alien 3 had a reputation for whatever, and that's the end. We try and put some effort into it.
See, it always surprised me to kind of touch on that point you made a little bit, Aaron, of not being sociable. Because when I always got the impression you were more of an extrovert, and when we met up in person, like you seemed like it. And I always thought that about Mike too. And Mike was like, "Oh no, I'm more introvert." And I was like, "What? Really?"
I'm very introverted.
I'd say I lean introvert a little bit, but I kind of put myself mostly in the middle. But yeah, I mean, when I started doing the podcast, I didn't know what I was doing. I was super nervous. And when we started getting the big interviews, like the first ones I was on, I was pretty nervous. But
can you remember your first ones?
I'd have to go back and look. I remember the first interview I did in person on my own, which I thought went really well, actually, was Alexander Philippe in 2019 at the Sundance Film Festival. And he had just come out with that kind of docu-essay piece, Memory, The Origins of Alien. And so I met up with him at the press room in Park City for the Sundance Film Festival and just sat down with him and had my little recorder, and we did an interview. And after I posted it, he messaged me. He's like, "Oh yeah, that actually, I thought I was tired and just rambling, but that was actually really good." So I got good feedback on that one. I remember interviewing one of the directors of the 40th anniversary shorts.
Wasn't it? No, it wasn't the Spears. That was something after.
No, it's the director of Specimen.
Yeah, the dog one. I can't remember her name.
Yeah, I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but that was a good interview. That was just a written interview. But I mean, most of what I did for the site was appear on the podcast and do some moderation, which was another thing I really had to learn. I was never natural at wagging my finger at people. So it was something that you and...
I fucking hate it so much.
Something that you and Christian had to teach me a little bit.
It's the worst part of any sort of moderation aspect of a community. It's fucking horrible. I hate it. Please stop making me feel like a school teacher.
It's still necessary.
And it's even worse on Facebooks. You know, you cannot effectively moderate good Facebook.
Go to X where there's just no moderation. See what happens. But
I know that I push the buttons every once in a while. Whoopsie.
But I mean, it can happen. We're passionate about our nerdiness, and yeah, we can butt heads with others, unfortunately. But yeah, I think it wasn't until Covenant time, Aaron, that you asked me to start posting news. And I think my first piece was on a Covenant TV spot or something like that. And I thought it was pretty cool. I was like, oh, journalism, right? Entertainment journalism. This is kind of cool. And really just been doing that ever since, doing news pieces and editorials. So it was another aspect of my involvement of the site that I've continued to do and continued to enjoy.
I did think about going into actual entertainment journalism in college.
You would be so good at it, man. Like, you're a really good writer, honestly.
Nah.
You are.
I make too many mistakes. Make too many mistakes. It's funny because I'm like anal about when we're doing the podcast. I'm like, nope, you said nope, you said no, you stuttered there. Get fucked. That's being muted. But then when it comes to written stuff, you know, I'm absolutely blind to my grammatical or spelling errors and stuff like that, and I feel like an absolute fucking muppet. That's something the old hands do a good job of making me feel like a twat at, is pointing out my errors on social media posts.
Now, Aaron, don't you owe Mike a Christmas ornament?
I sent them all out.
Yeah, so context. I won an AvP Galaxy like Christmas contest back in like 2007 for...
At this point,
I don't think I was staff yet. I designed like a Christmas Alien versus Predator versus Santa.
Go find that picture, Aaron.
I don't even know where it would be if I had to look, but I won the #1 prize or something like that. It was an AVPR Christmas ornament that was like shaped like the globe or whatever with the Predator and Alien on it. And
that's the balls. Do you want to see them? I've got them.
Did you get mine?
Let me go. I'll find them.
Because I don't have them. I never got mine, and I was very bummed out about that. I do forget about that every once in a while, but then it gets brought back to my memory, just like now. And that was a funny thing. I'm gonna hold that to.
I gotta dig that up. Yeah, I remember that Santa poster you did.
I think I can find it if I look for it.
That was an absolute fucking nightmare for me. Was those giveaways around them? I remember sending them all out. I remember it being an absolute chore. And then fucking Mr. Mikey complains.
Man, I'm jealous though. Like, if I could have an AVPR like globe Christmas ornament, man, that's I would put that on my tree. Like
that. Actually, speaking about AVPR, since we're having a fucking circle jerk, the trading cards used quotes from one of the interviews we did for the website.
He's got it. The AVP. How is that the only one you got, Eric?
Yeah.
You don't have a box of those back there, do you?
You don't have all of them, do you? Damn.
No, I've kept it in its little thing.
So for context, Fox back then sent us a bunch to give out and do a competition with, and that's apparently what Royal Mail shafted Mikey on.
Yeah, I would. I mean, even if I don't love that movie, I'd put that on my tree right now. That's cool.
It's relevant for the season. This Christmas there'll be no crepes. No.
That was so odd. All the Christmas marketing they did on the movie that just,
and it's not a Christmas movie at all. It just came out at Christmas. Yeah. I'm gonna still look for that artwork. If I find it, I'll post it.
You should do. Well, I'll post it on the socials.
Aaron's still got one of these somewhere.
Mine's not in the box. I did have one for myself.
Yeah, I've kept it just in case it's.
I don't remember sending you one though. I'll be honest, Eric.
Yeah, it was. I forget if it was just.
Did you do some CG?
No, it was. I remember what I did for it. It was a short fan fiction story, and I set it in Russia.
Oh, this was before you were staff as well, wasn't it?
It might have been, yeah. But it was. I don't know if it was like do anything for the film, but I remember the thing I sent as an entry was it was a fan fiction thing, but it was quite sort of ominous, and it was set in Russia at Christmas. That was it. It had to be Christmas themed, I think.
Sounds about right. This is a long time ago.
And I think you said, "Oh, I can't be asked. I'm just sending everyone something except for Mike." He never got it.
Well, to be fair, it is quite a pain to ship stuff from the US and the UK, and it wouldn't surprise me if something got lost, unfortunately.
Yeah, honestly, yes, it could well have done.
And that's what I assume happened. I just posted the link in the chat. I found it.
Oh yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
Is this for your Christmas? Okay, let's get this shared on the screen
so
as
silly.
well.
So silly. Back in my early Photoshop days.
That's
pretty good for early Photoshop.
Yeah.
I think what wasn't that the game cover as well of the
maybe
no
something like that.
Or did
they
do
the
actual
AVPR PSP one?
Yeah. Or did they?
No,
they
did wallpapers. Like yeah, they did. Well, it was like a wallpaper released online.
Yeah.
So for audio listeners, it's an alien on one side, wolf predator on the other side, and a Santa in the middle.
With blood, alien and human apparently in his beard.
Yeah, Santa
I
looks
guess
like he's been doing killing.
He's yeah. I think I was going for like those like early teaser posters for AvP with the half faces.
Yes. Yeah.
And Santa just split right in the middle there.
He's very like dark and red and evil Santa looking.
Yeah. It's almost like that Violent Night version of Santa where he's killing everybody.
Yeah, you know what you should have done? Giving him the yellow eyes, like the Predator yellow flashing eyes in that.
Oh yeah.
I remember
I felt like I was so creative back in the day.
I remember around that time too, they had it was like a quiz site for AvPR. And I got
so much time on that website.
Oh man. I had like cheat sheets in front of me, and I got to the final round, but I messed up on the time zones because it was just a constantly running thing, so you could do it whenever until the final round. And I mistook because I was a teenager, I mistook Greenwich Mean Time for General Mountain Time, which I'm on Mountain Time, but it's actually MST, not GMT. So yeah, that was my fuck up, and somebody got a big ass statue from it when it should have been me. But
I got so many posters from those quizzes.
Same here, yeah. I still have one of them. But,
mine are all gone. I'm gutted. Although to be fair, I did eventually get or find one of the Japanese posters, which I still actually have up. It's up behind my.
That's the best poster.
Yeah,
that's the one I still have.
You almost, you didn't just send me that, but you also sent the AvPR poster as well as the board.
Probably because I had 1,000 fucking copies of the posters from the.
I've still got it in the tube.
Get that up, man. Right. But yeah, what was I saying about? Oh, the quotes. So that was a cool moment for us as well. For me, was my quotes from an interview being on an official trading card in the AvPR sets, and that was like a cool. Oh shit!
Oh man, I think I have the full AvPR set. I'll have to look for that.
It was with Morris something. He was a puppeteer. and it was included in like some of the behind the scenes. They don't mention us. It's just quotes. But when I saw it, I was like, "This is familiar." And then I ended up emailing Inkworks and going, "You guys have used my interview
without attribution.
Why you no ask? Why you no ask?" But no, then it's shit like that that's cool because it kind of it feels like we're doing something meaningful when quotes that we from our interviews end up in actual things. You know, like in Making of Aliens. You know, I think there was some quotes from my interview with Cynthia Scott in there, and to see us credited on the back in you know the bibliography. And then Adam, you and I getting to fucking work on the anthologies.
Oh, that was such a cool experience. So again, thank you, Brian, for bringing us on board for that, because that was like my first time having involvement with an official project and like seeing my name in the books and having a character named after me, and the book was dedicated after you and I, Aaron. That was just so wild to me. So yeah, thank you again, Brian. Hope you get to do another one.
Yes.
Yeah,
now I also
Aaron, how was it like getting a ship named after you in that?
So I have a ship named after me in the Rage War. I'm responsible for the spreading of aliens.
I knew it.
In the far future. Tim Leben had my ship being responsible for the infestation of Weaver's World, obviously named after you know, Ms. Sigourney Weaver. And I was always like, Tim, are you trying to make some sort of comment on fandom here with me being this ship? You bastard. No, I love
What
Tim.
was your answer?
I can't remember. What else? I also helped out on the RPG Free League, at least the first core book. I helped out on that and got a character named after me in there. What else?
Alex's books.
Into Charybdis. Yes, I worked. I did consult work on Into Charybdis with a bunch of other fans, which was awesome. I feel like there's some other bits, but I can't really remember. Oh yeah, I helped on the Predator timeline. You did as well. I bet you don't really remember that. We didn't do a great deal on that one.
We did write-ups of some of
the DH
Brian's shorts. Yeah.
And yes, and the shorts. We didn't do a great deal on that one, but we did get the opportunity to work on it a little bit. So, you know, guys, we're available for consulting work.
We have a comment in here from our Patreon chat from the Batman. If you want to bring it up there, it says, "Congrats on 200 episodes, guys. Always very insightful chats and a great supplement to what was always a great website." Well, thank you very much, Mr. Batman.
And I have found my AvP World.
Ooh,
files.
We got to see this.
So here we go. Look at that from 2000s fucking coding.
Whoa, blast from the past. Oh my god.
Where my separator images aren't centered because they were specifically designed for a certain size screen, because we didn't do what's the phrase? Responsive web design back then.
Yeah.
Was it GeoCities? It looks like
yes. I was. Yeah. It was initially hosted on GeoCities, and back then we also used to make liberal use of redirecting services. So when the URL would have been, you know, I think it was uk.yahoo.geocities.com/avp_world 2002, if I'm remembering rightly. There was redirect services, so you could actually access it just by avpworld.csj.net or something like that, csm.net or something.
Someone out there is typing it in right now.
And look, this is another artifact of
Yes.
2000s web design.
I was
Yeah,
just going to
look at
say
your
that's
little-
the
your little award.
99.
Yeah,
Golden
Well-
Web Awards winner.
when we used to have little, I think they called them web rings, if I
Yeah.
remember rightly, which would like,
Yeah, they did, yeah.
I suppose the equivalent now would be, is it link trees? Is that what a lot of people use? Where it's just a website with a link to a bunch of other fucking random websites that are to do with a specific person. But like the idea of web rings was it was websites to do with the topic and.
Oh right, yeah.
But that right there, the first award, those were the 1999 AvP graphics that we used to promote that first game with.
Oh yes,
they were everywhere, and the one that took over from them is that famous AvP film costume that is now everywhere. But
well, it's
before
the
that,
CG
it was
render. It's not
those-
even the
yes,
costume.
Those was it?
Mhm.
Yes, rubber.
Yeah.
The one
Yeah,
you're
it's a
thinking of is
CG
a render.
If you look at the
thought it
photo,
was
the
rubber.
uncropped one, the bottom of it has like a perfect cut
Yes.
line where he should
No legs.
his legs
Yep.
just get cut off. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. I made a post
I
about that on
learned.
Twitter a couple months ago, and I said that's been one of the worst things to ever happen to the fan base or something. And I got so many hate comments because people were like, "It looks awesome. What are you talking about?" And it's like,
No, you're
all I was
right.
saying is that it's so overused. That's all I was saying.
It saturated everything. GIFs,
really is.
That's
everything.
one of my viral posts that I was like, "Oh, I don't like going viral on the Twitters."
You know, it deserves royalties because it's done so much heavy lifting for so many years.
People have tattoos of that alien, and that's the choice, I guess. But yeah. Oof.
And if you want to see what
If
AvP
anyone-
Galaxy, sorry, go ahead, Mike.
I was gonna say, if anyone listening has a tattoo of it, I'm sorry that I just insulted you. I didn't mean to do that.
I know who you
Yourself,
might
it's
be
a
thinking of.
lifestyle choice.
But if you want to see an older version of our own website, there's actually a place you can go to on our site. On the top menu, it's site and then site info. And our owner and admin, Darkness, has put together a history of our site. And he has screen capped a number of designs that we've had through the years as we've changed our aesthetic look of the site.
Thank God for Wayback Machine. That's where a good chunk of these are from. But yeah, definitely worth a look if you're newer to it and you see the various different takes. Like I had been visiting AvP Galaxy since these days, since these early screen caps here. You know, when he was on these old free internet service provider hosted websites. That's how long I've been around this community.
Yeah, so was I. But that was the one. That's what it started looking.
Yeah. So
more
what
consistent.
is called version 2 is the real roots of the layout for the website now. Although I totally feel like Adam's going to use this as an opportunity to go, can we get an update, please?
I'm not going to say that because we are getting one. One's in the works. So keep your eyes peeled. Our last big design refresh was...
God.
Little
look
baby.
at that youngin'.
I
Little
forgot
guy.
all about this. So for our audio listeners, I've just scrolled onto a bit at the bottom of that page where it says AvP Galaxy in other media, where in 2010 I was interviewed for a documentary by Dennis Lowe, who worked on Alien. He was one of the effects crew on the OG Alien, and he was making documentaries on the other model makers. And he also did one on fans. And I was interviewed for the first one he did. And there is how old would I have been? 17, 18, 19-year-old baby-faced Aaron Percival. Look at that hair. That is terrible hair. And that lovely old sofa that my mother and father had. Oh, God. Oh, and then I was interviewed for a French magazine. I forgot about that.
There you go.
What was that magazine called? Cine Saga. I forgot all about that. That was 2017.
Wasn't that first one 2002, right at the top?
Yes, the website was launched in 2002.
Right, because that means we're so old, we are literally pre-YouTube.
Yep. That's right. But yeah, we probably need to update that section. I think there's a few other points of our history that we could include in there. So
a bit of self-glorifying that we
right.
can add to it.
That's on the agenda for the new year.
I think I'm circle jerked out. Can you think of any self-grandization else that we can add? Or are you
I just remember that when we were at SDCC together, RidgeTop, that we got recognized by a guy named Hector, and he goes by Dr. Tijuana on Instagram, and he was super kind guy. Like that, and that was one of the first times I think I'd ever been recognized.
Was that at the after party?
No, it might have been at the after party, yeah. But I think he also ran into us at was it Iron Studios booth or something like that had the big chat.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, and he was so kind. He drove all the way up from Mexico for this Prey screening, I believe, or something like that, and then drove back home that night or something. But then I ran into him again at this previous Monster Palooza where I was talking to Fede and stuff like that too. And he was standing in line right behind me. And it was like, whoa, what's up, dude? Like, that's something I don't think I'll ever get used to, is being recognized. And then at the first public screening I got to go to for Romulus, there was a guy sitting behind me that was wearing an AvP Galaxy shirt. And I'm sorry, I can't remember your name right now. And I turned around and I was like, are you on AvP Galaxy? And he goes, yeah, you're Mike. And I was like, you know exactly who I am. It's so weird. But that was so cool. It's like seeing that stuff in the wild. It's not something you expect. And in the real world. And it shows how widespread this community and this website's reach has become. And we're not just some little tiny fan site. You go on the Facebook page, and how many members do you guys have on those? Like hundreds of thousands, like
100,000 around there.
Yeah, like that's nuts. This little website from 2002 has really gone and had some legs, and it's not slowing down. And we're gonna get busier and busier as this next year comes with some new Predator projects and an Alien TV show, and maybe we'll get an official green lighting and locked in production for the Romulus sequel and more games, and just it's nuts. It's
yeah. I mean, you've
so
said
cool.
it right, Aaron, that it feels like we're really in a second golden age for
we
these
have
franchises.
been since 2014. I would say we began a second golden age.
Yeah, but I think there was a period when Disney took over that we were all very like on edge, like what's going to happen next, you know? And now it seems like there's just so much that's coming, and we've had the biggest hits for both franchises that we've had in a long time. So it does feel like we're on the cusp of really getting a lot in terms of not only first Alien TV series, we've never had that before. 2 Predator movies in 1 year. We've never had anything like that before. We have multiple games in production. We have comics and books that are coming. So it is a really great time to be a fan. And it's cool to see people that have stuck with it, you know, like us through all these years, and newcomers that are maybe they saw Romulus and they didn't know anything about the franchise, and that's their introduction.
That is something I miss from the old days. You know, I may have rolled my eyes at it as an arrogant, self-involved kid at all the free websites, but I miss there being regular new communities and websites popping up to share the love, you know, for these for the franchises. I miss being on other forums and stuff like that. I guess it's just new groups that crop up every now and again. But yeah, I miss those times. I miss seeing some new passionate fan, or a fan that decided they wanted to do that, just creating a new website and putting their own effort into bits and pieces. Their content. I miss it.
What was it?
Like you miss the unique voices. You miss the unique voices because all these groups and these fan bases on these social media sites, they all are the same. They don't have a unique personality, I would say.
I don't know. I feel like I still see a lot of passionate younger fans too that are doing really incredible things. Like even our friend Xander, like building models and stuff. And
yeah,
you know, the people at Perfect Organism, they've built a brand in a relatively short time, and what they've done has been pretty impressive too in the fan space. So
yeah,
I
think I was referring to the Facebook groups and stuff. It's like we don't have the websites like AvP Galaxy.
It does, yeah. I mean, we wouldn't be the first ones to lament for the early days of the internet because it is a much different time now. A lot for worse, I would say, unfortunately. But we keep our site running, and if you want a taste of that old school internet, we still have a community on there. So feel free to sign up.
It is a fair point to bring up. I guess podcasts have effectively replaced that in terms of new community sort of voices. Obviously PO's been around for a goddamn long time. Adam said relatively short time. They've been around fucking ages.
That's true. Like
they must have been about 2016, something like that.
Okay.
But we still get new voices. So I very much enjoy Crew Expendable. You know, they're relatively new. They're probably about a year or two old. Who are going through, you know, all the comics, all the books in semi kind of chronological order, and they're cool. It's good to get to listen to them, and that I think that's where. Oh, and Xenomorphine, of course, they've come back. A Hive Mind, that was Dave Gogol's thing. They're very sort of casual, chill episodes. So that's where our voices are. That's where the new people come from. I don't really want to talk about YouTube because there's so many people I fucking hate with big audiences.
YouTube's been cool.
Me too.
We've had some really good videos on YouTube. Like
no, but I'm talking about voices and people on there. I think there's
some great comments on YouTube too. I mean, there's a lot of shitty comments too.
No, I'm talking about the people
channels.
Yes. So you know, there's people out there that put incorrect and harmful. I say harmful, incorrect bullshit out.
Fox called us the site with the finger on the pulse.
We are the pulse of the Alien and Predator fandom, or something to that effect. Is what
that's
Fox
what they said.
Oh, okay. I knew that was a tagline on our banner. I didn't know that came from Fox.
That came from Fox.
When was this?
It was a while ago. It was a long time.
This is a long time ago. Yeah, because it's been a part of the site for a long time.
It was in an email they sent you, wasn't it? Oh, we know you're the site with the finger on the pulse. It was them trying to shine you on and go, would you like to promote our stuff?
Of course. You know what? I enjoyed a very long relationship with Fox PR. A very long relationship. I mean, at one point I was chatting to the people who were looking after the wider brand, you know, the equivalent, I guess, of the story group at Star Wars and things like that. I guess kind of the equivalent of what would be Ken nowadays. You know, we enjoyed a very good relationship with them, and it was an honest relationship as well. You know, I remember when the Isolation web series came out, and I was asked, "What do I think of that?" And I went, "Well," to them. Misfire, I believe, was what I called it. I described it as to him.
Your suggestion for the later Dark Horse like alternate takes, right?
Well, I was one of several people that were saying that to them, but you know, it was one of the first things I said was, Dark Horse has done the Star Wars, you should do that with all the Alien 3 stuff. And they did actually come to me. Well, it wasn't Fox directly, but it was one of their other consultants did actually come to me for those scripts, you know, for the Gibson scripts, for them to start doing things with. So yeah, I don't think we really enjoy that close of a relationship with Disney these days, but you know, that was a nice time to have with them with Fox. But that's not to say we don't have some cool shit coming next year when the series drops and stuff like that. You know, we have shown that we have some concept art. That's not all we have. So as that rolls out and we start to do our own picking up the pieces of a lack of behind the scenes material, you know, we've got shit to contribute there. Same for the other stuff, you know, like I said, I've got the Romulus draft.
I don't think there's another site on the internet where you can find as many downloadable Alien, Predator, and AvP scripts as our site. Like, so if that's what you're looking for, we got them.
Yeah, and we paid for some of those.
You guys are a very good database. Like, it's not just fan site. It's a good encyclopedia compilation and just like
and a lot of that is also written by Darkness.
Yeah,
just to point out there, you know,
he's continued to update those, and like a lot of those go, you know, like we don't post about those updates. I mean, we probably should, because he has updated a number of those entries with more recent information. But yeah, as just a database, if you're looking for more information on the films, I'd like to think we are a really good resource for that.
Mm-hmm. Same. All right, anything else, gentlemen?
I just want to give one last little shout out, and Mike kind of inspired me to do this. But yeah, there's been like some acknowledgements like in public that I've gotten too, that have been like, whoa, that's wild. It's cool that what we do, like, people care about it, you know. One was my internet buddy Hunter. I remember he messaged me a few years ago and just talked about how the podcast had gotten him through some rough times and stuff, and just hearing that was like, what, like that, like kind of tripped me out a little bit. But yeah, it's those things that really keep us motivated, is just knowing that what we do, you know, the world can be a little sketch these days, and so I think escapism is important, and I like to think we help you know, facilitate that for people, and like we're part of this fandom, like we love that escapism as well.
You've reminded me as well, Kradan on the boards, you know, he used to tell us that he learned English listening to us talking about Alien and Predator. So
yeah. I think the first piece of scripting a lot of us learned was how to post an image on the forum, probably
in BB code.
Yeah.
To be fair, BB code was easy, but yeah.
I remember I flew out to LA when there was like a hurricane warning, because I wanted to see the original Predator in theaters and Prey again. And there was a fan of our site in there who had been to it for a long time as well. His name is Andy, and he did a Predator fan film as well. And he saw my post while I was in the theater, and he asked to meet up and get a picture with me. And I was like, "Oh, I'm actually not the owner, but like I help with it, I guess." And but yeah, like I remember at that Prey after party we went to, Mike, like I can't remember who those other group of guys were, but that was the first time like people asked to take a picture with us, and I was
like, yeah. And then I've got El Diablo from the site too, who's provided a couple images. Like he's an awesome guy. He introduced himself at Monster Palooza as well as seeing Hector there. But then he hooked me up with the popcorn buckets from Romulus, because I missed out on them. So I've got like one of them right here, and something on the floor. But because of that, I had an extra ticket to see the first screening of Romulus for the public, and I brought him along, and it was great seeing the movie with him, and he had a great time. And that's where I saw the guy sitting behind me wearing the AvP Galaxy shirt, and I'm so bummed that I can't remember who you are right now. I'm so sorry, but thank you for the support. But it's like there's some really awesome people on this site and in this community, and it's great to have this shared love of these franchises, because they're technically 3. But yeah, no, it's awesome.
4. There's 4 licenses.
4, yeah, with
well,
Prometheus
was scooted into Alien.
No, it's still its own license.
Yeah, it almost became Alien. It almost became Alien Prometheus, but
yes, that's true. That. Fox were going to rebrand it before the buyout.
Yeah,
that is fact.
Yep, but I was told that by the person who almost made it happen.
But yeah, there was one more thing. Oh yeah, so a number of the conceptual artists and designers who worked on Romulus, like I was surprised some of them were like, "Oh yeah, when we were working on that, we were listening to your podcast." And I was like, "Whoa, really? That's super cool."
And just to go back to like Prometheus, Charles used to tell us he shared an office with the publicity folk on Prometheus, and they would be looking at the website and seeing what had leaked or what we were discussing and stuff like that, and they were like, "Oh shit, come on!" The amount of cease and desist orders we collected during that period.
And I remember one time I was just gaming on my own, playing Hunting Grounds, and I had like voice chat on, and someone was like, "RidgeTop from the podcast," and I was like, "What?" No, like, so it does trip me out. It's pretty wild that we've gotten the recognition we have. But you know, we try and keep it real, you know. Like
apart from this episode, apparently, where
we're getting all of our own. You know, we're tooting all of our own horn right now, but.
I blame the patrons. They wanted this.
So
Your other choices that I were looking at was the level designer for Alien Trilogy and one of the special effects artists on Alien Ride at the Speed of Fright. To be fair, that was that was self-satisfaction there. But
we should still do those. I mean, those sound like
we should still do those at some
really
point.
Cool.
But no, I hope this hasn't been obnoxious. I really do hope this hasn't been obnoxious.
You know what? Thinking about it though, I think that it just shows that we did come from just being regular fans, and if you put in the effort, the time, and the energy, and you are a good positive energy, this stuff can come to you as well. It's just simply
positive energy doesn't get you anywhere these days.
Yeah,
it's all about hate bait.
Yeah, no.
I think that the better way to do it is we're not like bad faith actors. We're good faith.
Exactly.
Actors.
That's where I was going with that.
We will be honest, but where there's criticism, we'll try and give constructive criticism.
Eric hasn't had his paycheck from Disney.
No,
you guys get paid? What?
Yeah. You have to earn your trust with the audience, so hopefully we've done that. But all you can do is just put out there what we think works, and people have responded to that, which we're very thankful for.
Yeah. Oh, I've been so grateful for the experiences that have come my way through this site, and then branching off into my own. And like I kind of, what you were saying, Adam, when you were playing, when we've had people recognize us. When I met up with Trevor Newland, the Xenomorph actor, he was like, yeah, I've been watching your videos for a while. And when I was telling my dad and my mom that I was meeting up with you, they were so excited because they've been watching your videos too. And I was like, what the heck? And then when I saw Romulus with the crew screening, I had Alec Gillis like sitting 2 seats away from me, and he was just having the best time. But the guy sitting next to me did the stop motion for the rat, and his wife was with them too. And they were like, yeah, we used to watch this YouTuber, and he always had information before people had it. And I was like, was his name Mike's Monsters? And they're like, that sounds really familiar. Hey, you're Mike's Monsters. It's like, yeah, that was like a weird, there's just been some really awesome experiences that I've been able to have through this community, and thanks to this site. And I'm just so grateful. And it's like I said, it's not slowing down. So who knows what's coming next for us? And I'm ready. It's very cool.
And I'm very thankful to, all the friends we've made. We've name dropped so many fucking people throughout this episode. But, all the people that we haven't named, when after Romulus came out, I enjoyed going and getting a beer with Matt Savage. After the artists had done a panel down there talking about the films. And it's so great to get to know these people, to get them on the podcast. It's not just us talking about why we think comics are fun or why this film is fun. To get to speak to the people that are responsible for the films and responsible for the comics and the books, and give them a voice to talk about their creative thinking, and what makes Alien franchise so special to everybody is a fantastic opportunity. And I never ever fucking expected that we'd be in this kind of situation or doing these kind of things. When I was a kid, scared to go to sleep.
mean, just being a community member on the site, I never expected to be part of the team, so it's been an awesome experience.
Yeah. And so, thank you to all those creatives. Thank you to all those cast and crew and writers and artists and everybody who has been a friend to the site and willing to give their time to talk to our audience and tell them about your experiences. Thank you to all our Patreons who have been financially supporting us this year and a bit. This was something I didn't want to do. I didn't want to come out with our hands out. I have to be pushed to do a lot of these things, truth be told. And
it's only because I got D on my side about the Patreon thing that I have.
Yeah,
but that's been more successful than we could have expected. So again, we are just super grateful to those who help us devote more time into doing this, because adult lives get more and more busy, and so you really enable us to keep focused with this and to do the kind of big projects we want to do for the site, and we
hopefully do bigger ones. You gave Adam the chance to go fly to was it LA? I can't remember. To fly to LA to get the hands on with Rogue Incursion. As we've talked about earlier, you know, my ignorance doesn't let me appreciate the size of America and the financial hardship that is traveling from Adam's little corner of that fucking continent to another little corner of that continent. To be able to let me still obsess, but not quite as obsessed, spend as much time obsessing over the podcast and stuff like that. And I would like to be able to use it to do bigger things as well, as we get into the swing of it. So thank you to all you guys that are doing that, and to the people that don't support us on Patreon. Thank you just to the listeners. Thank you to the members on the forums. Thank you to the people on the social media pages, as much as I hate Facebook and Twitter. But you know, those of you that aren't jerks that contribute and share the content, the people that come and support us on the weekly stream, well, generally weekly streams, you know, it's you being on there and showing us that you're interested, you appreciate what we're doing, that I'm not just putting effort in. We're not just putting effort in for it to go to a fucking blank wall somewhere. You know, that there are people that find value in what we do, and it is nice to hear that. And again, hands out kind of thing. But you know, if you do enjoy what we do, leave us reviews on the platforms, on iTunes and Spotify and Podbean. Leave us comments on the videos on YouTube. You know, all that bullshit that the content creators have to beg for, basically, is what it feels like. But you know, to get us caught by the technology algorithms and make us visible to other fans. You know, I hate this. I hate these moments, but you know, we have to ask for them. And
smash that like button.
It is very much appreciated by us. It really is.
But then also thank you to all the people that help keep the site running in the Discords and the moderators, all the site staff. All of those people have helped keep this site alive too. And like, they're awesome friends. Like, I love to shout out Caleb. Caleb's an awesome guy. We love you. You're such a great guy.
I mean, both he and you keep our YouTube chat in order when we're doing our streams, and
I just pay attention during my breakfast. But yeah, Sissy's out there and stuff like that.
Greg on Discord as well, still co-writing on Discord.
Yeah. Everybody's got their little bit of pull, and it keeps this site alive. And I think that's awesome.
Indeed.
And for our patrons, we do have more plans in 2025. You know, we do want to make sure we have little perks for you to enjoy. So we are looking at some of those, as well as putting together a page of just like different tiers of acknowledgement on our website as well, for those of you who are members on there. So that's something that's in progress. We're going to try and up the content of our Patreon exclusive podcast, the Genetic Memory one, in the new year. We
still got a good amount of stuff done for that.
Yeah, but we could up the output a little bit more, I think.
But I'm upping the output on the normal podcast at the minute.
Well, we could do both. So yeah, that's been a lot of fun. And again, thank you to our supporters, both on Patreon and those who just, you know, have given us shout outs, who have been willing to come talk to us, and who have become our friends, you know, and in some cases partners. So what are you pointing at?
Just pointing at you guys.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was you.
Love you.
Yeah, no, we've all become pretty good friends.
All you guys are awesome, and I mean, it's some of my best friends too. So I love you guys.
Yeah.
Getting all sappy here, gonna start crying.
But I mean, this, like, we grew up on the site, like, so those were our teen years. They were very formative,
and that's fucking embarrassing in and of itself.
Yeah,
with our old posts accessible.
I grew up in a farm town.
I hate my old posts. I cringe at reading my old messages and on the boards. Good Lord.
So, yeah, I think that's it.
Okay, that sounds good to me. And thank you to the folk that have been in the chat for the live recording of this. We broadcast the discussions live for Patreon supporters, and we've had a good chunk of people in here today, so thank you.
Yeah, day before New Year's Eve, very excited for 2025.
We're recording this the day before New Year's Eve. This will not be out until mid to late January.
This was probably our busiest year ever. I would
only
say.
getting started.
And next year's going to be double that, I think, just with the amount of stuff that's coming. It's pretty wild. So buckle up.
All right, Eric, do you want to say anything?
No. No, just echoing the comments you guys have made. I can't really, say more than that. It's 100%. But we would be nothing without those who consume our content. We literally do it for them. This is not our day job.
I fucking wish I could do this as a day job.
Yeah. If we get enough Patreons, I guess. But we enjoy providing this content. We have a passion for it, and we only hope it shows through, which I think it does.
Yeah, I think so as well. Otherwise, I always said to Adam, every time he pushes me to do something new, I'm like, I don't want to make this a chore. Sometimes it can feel like that, but that's also because of we're now 30-something old bastards with thinning hairlines and graying beards and everything.
TikTok 2025. We're coming to TikTok.
No. That stuff's getting banned. Don't even bother.
Nope, they're not going to do that.
It's hard because we all have lives outside of here, so it's to find the time to be able to do this in between. The motivation through the fan base helps a lot.
Yes, it's hearing that people do appreciate it or that makes it worthwhile, and that's not to say that we do it. There is love for it. I go and explore the fucking alternate scripts and I go hunt down people because it's what I'm interested in. I like that movie archaeology aspect of it, and that doesn't always generate good views or whatever. Poor Adam fucking worked his little art out on his theme park one that I think has took off better than he thinks it has, but it's still kind of niche in its appeal. But there is still that level of personal passion. And
hey, it did well enough to get plagiarized by like Walt Disney World News. But I do need to do it in case you missed it. Post on that one because that was probably the thing I put the most effort in for the site this year. I would say.
I don't know. I think you did put a lot of effort. Well, no, I had to push you to finish the Survios thing, but the Survios thing was really good. Yeah.
Thank you, Sarah.
Sarah says I like the theme park one in the comments.
I mean, a lot of the times we make this stuff because we want to see this content, and that's how I make my own content. So it doesn't always mean it's going to hit, but it's out there. And then maybe one day down the road, it'll pick up. It's not just immediate. It doesn't have, well, that's the thing with social media. Everything has to be an immediate hit for it to go viral. But with sites like this and with videos and stuff, things can have a life and they can catch later on down the road. So that roller coaster and stuff article, Adam, might pick up in a year or two and be super viral.
I know some of your videos have been like that, Aaron, that you do a lore video and it has a pretty slow start and then out of nowhere,
2 years later, there's
just
like
takes
500,000 views on it. I'm like, Jesus Christ, I don't understand these algorithms. And I do apologize if perhaps we've talked a little bit too business with some of what we've discussed, but hopefully you'll find that just as enlightening as we do when we have to fucking realize it all.
It's the truth.
But yeah, I think there was a lot of shop talk in this, but hopefully it hasn't been terrible.
I think people like behind the scenes stuff when it comes to how did we do that as much as they do with the films, because it's all, it's of interest.
This is our Charles de Lazarica documentary on how
about ourselves. God, I can't believe we fucking talked about ourselves for 3 hours, but
Yeah. And we're gonna get some hate for this, just like that was great. The Covenant teaser. You guys are gonna talk 3 hours for a 1 minute long trailer.
That was 3 minutes. It was an hour for each minute.
This is 20 years worth of talking right here. 3 hours is okay for that amount of time.
It's all right. The audio version will edit down to about an hour and 20 minutes, 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Just for an insight into how much shit I do snip out the audio versions. It is 10. I think it tends to be about 10 minutes for every hour. That's how much silence and stammering and ums and stutters that get removed. But yeah, a bit of inside baseball there for you as well. Anyway, let's wrap up. That's enough.
Yep. So happy New Year. In the new year. Yay, 2025. You can find us on our website, avpgalaxy.net, which is our main hub of activity. We are on all the major social channels. Facebook, Instagram, X, Threads, Blue Sky. We're also on Discord and have a Steam group. Again, big thank you to our Patreon supporters. If you'd like to support what we do at AvP Galaxy, check out patreon.com/AvP Galaxy. If you'd like to follow me personally, a good place to do that would be Instagram or X, and now Blue Sky under RidgeTop21. Mike, why don't you shout out your YouTube channel? Mike's got a bunch of really good Alien and Predator videos.
Yeah, I am Mike's Monsters on all socials except for X now. I left that hell site. You might find Mike Wazowski for a while, like the Monsters Inc. thing. I've been Mike Wazowski by Mike Wazowski. Anytime you search Mike's Monsters, he pops up from Monsters Inc. But if you keep looking, you'll find me, especially if you like type in Mike's Monsters, Alien, or Predator. I have a couple of pretty extensive documentary kind of pieces about the Blomkamp timeline with a little bit of new information in there that wasn't released publicly. I've got a video about the differences between the final cut and the early cut of Romulus that I saw. And then if you want to go back and rewatch my trailer breakdowns of those are all out there too. For Romulus, I'm not sure how much I'll be doing for Badlands and stuff, but I'll probably do a little bit. But yeah, I'm all on social medias. I do a lot of toy photography as well. Do a lot of Alien and Predator photos, and you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky, every other site out there if you just search Mike's Monsters.
Eric is even worth asking. Are you
Eric, you gonna start promoting your stuff now?
Yeah, I mean, I have got a YouTube channel, but I've had a lot of issues with the cameras and stuff. I've now got a GoPro, so once I've got more stuff up there, I'm gonna.
Did you get the Hero 13?
Promoting, yeah.
Did you get the Hero 13?
Yes.
Nice.
The newest
jelly. Well, that one. Aaron, how about you? Yeah, I know you don't like your personal channels and stuff.
So I'm on Twitter, X, whatever, at _Corporal Hicks, and I'm also on Blue Skies as Corporal Hicks.
Oh, okay.
I don't know you're on Blue Sky. I'm gonna look you up right now.
Yeah, I like Blue Sky actually. It's a quieter.
It's a nice place.
Yeah.
Let's hope it lasts. It seems like every social media network has a shelf life, unfortunately. Except for us, we're gonna keep going forever.
Well, I'd be lying if I said I hadn't thought about quitting a couple of times over the years, but it does feel like we'll go.
We're pre-YouTube and we aim to be post-YouTube.
Anyway, thank you everybody for listening or watching and for supporting. This has been Corporal Hicks.
RidgeTop.
Mike's Monsters.
Xenomorphine.
Signing off.